just water.
Hi, I'm Ricky. Nice to meet you.
Judy, Ricky, Judy.
Yeah.
Hey, Judy, I never did get a certificate from those people for my class I went to.
You won't because of the way that you took it. But I put in your email to me, and I put it in your election file.
Okay.
Because that's what the directions say to do. If you take it that way, you will not get a certificate, but it's still valid.
Miss Judy, who was the first one to complete the whole course? The course this year?
Which course?
Ethics.
I haven't done one of those in about 3 schedules.
I mean, what are they gonna say?
What are they gonna do?
Yeah, I took it.
Reports to the ethics.
Where I did.
All the microphones are on.
You missed them.
I didn't take that. I didn't remember walking in.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled November 27th commission meeting to order. We want to recognize, I'm down to Commissioner. Where did Commissioner Clark go?
He'll be right back.
All right. I want to recognize the absence of our city manager. Assistant City Manager Dallas Lee is sitting in for him. I have no amendments or changes to the agenda as it was published. So with Commissioner Clark out of the room, I'll still take a motion to approve the commission. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any questions or comments from the dais on the motion on the floor? Questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor to approve the agenda as it was published? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously 4-0 with Commissioner Clark out of the room. If you would please stand for the invocation, which will be given tonight by resident Tim Martin, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow directly.
Let's bow our heads. Lord, thank you for the blessings, the many blessings of our families, our friends, our community, and our country. We thank you for the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus. We pray for our meeting, our comings and goings. We pray for the work we do for our community, and may we have the wisdom of decision and discipline. Bless this season of Thanksgiving that we are entering, and may we walk with the favor of you that you provide. We do this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mr. Farnsworth?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Judy.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Let's see, we have 2 or 3 presentations tonight. First one is recognizing Commissioner Mazon's graduation from the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials, number 2. Number 2. You got number 2 done. Well done, sir. Good job. Now we're going to be relying on you to relay all that wisdom and knowledge.
Something like that.
Right? Good job. Do we?
Let's go.
Do we have anything here? Certificate? I've got a pile of paperwork. If there's a certificate, I'm going to give it to you later. All right? We just wanted to say thank you for doing it, going down there. We do appreciate it. Those are great things. Our second presentation tonight is Building Strong Communities Award. I think we do have some comments about this. This is also pretty cool.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. I believe for the 9th year in a row, the Florida Municipal Electric Association has awarded the City of Newberry with the Building Strong Communities Award. This award acknowledges Newberry's outstanding community contributions, which go above and beyond providing safe, affordable, reliable, and clean energy. The Florida Municipal Electric Association recognizes public utilities that enhance the environment, educate the community, collect charity donations, and run special programs. Newberry's initiatives included organizing and collecting charitable donations, supporting community events, hanging holiday decorations, providing utility assistance, and supporting veterans. Executive Director of the FMEA, Amy Zubeli, said that for the people who work for Florida's public power utilities, it's more than just a job. It's a way for them to give back to their communities and an opportunity to strengthen the communities that they live in. Congratulations to each of the utilities honored, including Newberry, and many thanks to the employees who have made this recognition possible. The city received this award at the FMEA Energy Conference on November 7th.
I just want to also say that, we spend a lot of time in Newberry now talking about growth, talking about what that does to communities. Things like this are one of the ways that we're addressing that, right? We actively go and seek ways to keep our community strong, keep our community together. 9 years in a row is quite an achievement. And Travis, would you mind snapping a picture for us?
Smile, Dallas.
I thought selfies were high.
He's
got a
photographic
He
Yeah, he's got it down. All right. And that's going to take us to the moment we've all been waiting for.
I'm with you.
On our way to Newberry becoming the Christmas capital of Alachua County, the announcement of the 2023 Christmas plans. Come on down, Travis. This is it.
Good.
So excited. Gingerbread parades.
We should all have a hype man.
We should. I'm going to
This
sit
is part
down.
of building a strong community. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I am here to talk about our plans for 2023 Christmas. As Mr. Mayor said, the Christmas capital of Alachua County. I do have some videos. I saw the agenda, so I'm going to stop them a little short, but just to give you an idea of some of the things to expect.
It was like a Hallmark movie. I feel like that's what we kept hearing, and that's how what we've heard the last couple of years too, is with the twinkle lights and everybody walking around as a family and the little gingerbread. Get your picture taken in.
I'm not sure why I did that, but
To Target and made it feel
You said you were going to
more for Christmas. So next year we're looking forward to doing it again.
I wanted you to see that last part. So this year, a couple things that we're doing a little differently. We do have a website up now. If you scan that QR code, it will take you to that website. It has things on there, a full calendar of events. So any event that we are having, you can get all the information on the event, date, time, what the event consists of. We're also doing Light Up Newberry a little differently. The contest is now going to be web-based via an app, so it's no longer driving around and taking votes that way. So all those kind of new things will be on the website, and it's a good place for residents to go to see what we have planned and to schedule their weekends around. The website address is ChristmasCapitalofAlachuaCounty.com. So the app is, the contest is Light Up Newberry. The app is the Christmas Prism app. And that app will allow us to, as a city, we run a contest, and any of our residents who would like to participate will log into the app and they'll register their home. And then as a resident, you can go to the app and search the contest. You'll type in Newberry and it'll pop up, Light Up Newberry, and then each home will have their address listed and a map. So all you have to do is click on the home, and then it'll say navigate, and it'll take you there so you can see which houses in Newberry lit up, and you can vote.
You vote in the app?
You vote in the app.
Oh, it's a one-stop shop.
One-stop.
Super easy. It'll map you to the houses. You can go and you can look. You can upload pictures. Super excited about this. This is going to make it really efficient, fun. It's going to be great.
And I think it allows a lot of people to participate, that probably couldn't before. So for the weekends, we've partnered up with the Chamber and also Newberry Main Street, and we have something planned for every weekend besides the Christmas weekend. So moving the park, holiday golf cart decorating, Christmas tree lighting. Let me start with that one. That is this coming Saturday.
This Saturday.
We will be having our Christmas lighting. If you've been downtown for that experience, I would say that it's probably the busiest day of the year downtown.
Travis,
Yes, sir.
are we getting the reindeers?
We are not getting the reindeer.
We got something better.
We do have carolers planned. The reindeer situation, I think we need to purchase reindeer, have a farm. It is pretty insane to get reindeer. I think we got really lucky COVID year to get them, but they are very pricey.
Are they bid out?
They are bid out. So
Well, last year we had them, and then somebody came in and outbid us like 4 days before the event. And in their rules, they're allowed to do that. Like, they're allowed to just, so you can win the bid, and somebody can come in after and offer them more money, and they'll take it back.
they can. We asked several different ones, and there aren't many, and that was the explanation.
Okay.
It's a bid process, no holds. So, I mean,
Even
maybe.
after you win the bid. That's the
Yeah.
part that got me.
Maybe we should get a cold storage and get
That's what
reindeer.
he's saying. We got to go into the reindeer business.
All we need is 2 of them. Gingerbread contest on the 16th, the Christmas parade that's followed by Christmas on the Square.
But before we move off of that, I know people love the reindeer, but we actually do have a really good
Hey,
backup plan. I'm not gonna say it. You've got to come to the tree lighting ceremony to find out. But it's
Oh, my
going
dear.
to be worth it.
I'm gonna play a video of the tree lighting and the vintage market. Just gonna give you a little snippet of it, and then we're gonna roll on. Real quick. It's coming.
This is before the tree lighting.
I did test this before. All right, so if you haven't seen the tree lighting, the mayor says words. We have the annual lighting of the tree. We have a lot of events happening here. Greenfield has events for the children. We have,
hello, man.
Are we interrupting you?
oh, that was your phone.
I'm watching it on the app.
Joel's Coffee hands out hot cocoa for the kids.
Christmas parade. These are some videos that we've taken in the past as promotions, so you guys will see these, throughout the season. Really cool stuff for a small town.
Neither one of those are me, by the way.
Just some of the events that we have done and continue to do. That video is cool. I didn't want to stop it, but we need to keep rolling.
You have to go to the website.
Yep. All these videos are on our website. And this is just another one of Main Street's and the Chamber's events. Christmas on the Square follows the parade every year. This is also where the mayor announces the winners of the Light Up Christmas contest.
Norfolk's are giving away free steak. Did good,
Thank you.
man.
So, in closing, we have a lot of stuff planned, a lot of events, and we will be marketing this throughout the next few weeks, so you're probably going to see a lot of it happening. The website is really cool. Give it a look.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
done. We needed a one-stop shop for all of these things so people can go find out the dates, the times, the flyers, where to go, how to participate. The gingerbread building contest last year, guys, perfect timing to go with the parade. You can go in, walk in, they give you hot cocoa and cookies, save for the parade, cast your vote for which house you think is the best, and if you're a baker, make one, all right? Let's have some fun with it. All right, thank you, Travis, that was great. Ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from you early and often, so they set aside a public comment time at the beginning of the meeting. These are 2-minute public comments. If it's on the agenda, you can have more time when we get to that agenda item. And if you have something that's not on the agenda tonight that's a little more controversial, we have another public comment at the end of the night where you can have 5 minutes to talk to the commission. Anybody have anything they want to announce to the commission right now? Come on now, ma'am. Take your time.
Good morning, Mayor Marlowe, and
Good morning.
good evening, Mayor
That's
Marlowe
fine.
and Commissioners.
I'm still on morning time, too.
Okay, this is not a complaint, this is an observation. The past 2-3 Saturdays, we have funeralized some family members and friends, and we were at the Freddie Womack Center on last Saturday, and the place was clean and everything. However, there are no trash bags. There weren't any trash bags for us to put the trash in, so we had to go and purchase trash bags. And then on this past Saturday, this past Thursday for Thanksgiving, our family had our family Thanksgiving dinner and feast, and there were no trash bags. So we had to go and get trash bags. And so we've talked to Miss Tasha about it, and she's going to bring it up to you all to make sure that there's stuff there for us to refill the trash bags, because I think I only had 4 trash bags that I could fill the trash cans with. So it's just an observation. So please make sure that, when stuff comes up on the calendar and the city employees know about it, if they can just make sure the facilities have what we need to clean the place back up and make sure so we can get our reimbursements. We did get our reimbursements, but, so we can get our deposits back. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
That's all.
All right.
I don't have any.
That's the easy one,
That was
yeah.
easy. Okay, thank you.
Other public comments, these are 2-minute comments. Anybody else got anything? Hearing none, we will move along to consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison, second from Commissioner Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. That's going to take us to our fiscal year 2023 final budget amendments. Mr. Attorney, would you please read into the record Resolution 2023-63 for us?
Yes, sir. This is Resolution 2023-63, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting final amendments to the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget and providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. Appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass resolution number 2023-63.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Amanda, you want to take us through this?
Absolutely.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, as you are aware, the Finance Department performs an end-of-the-year review of actual receipts and expenditures of each fund and the department as part of its end-of-year procedures. The review is intended to identify budget and expenditure variances in need of correction. Staff's recommendation is that you move to approve Resolution 2023-63, amending the final budget. As a result of the review, the Finance Department deems it necessary to reallocate previously appropriated funds to correct several budget variances. Florida statutes allow for a final budget amendment up to 60 days after the close of the fiscal year, which is why you're getting it now in November. I have nothing major to report to you in this budget amendment. Overall, the city came in under budget. A final report of the city's financial activities will be provided once the year has been closed out and the audit completed. A majority of the budget amendment presented to you tonight is ratifying budget transfers the city manager made under his budgeting authority. So for the general fund, we are recommending an increase in revenues by $650,000 or 7%. an increase in expenditures by $125,000 or 1%. Main causes for increase in general fund budgeted revenues is an increase in building permits, interest earnings, and grant revenues. For the Capital Improvement Fund, no change in total budgeted revenues or expenditures is recommended. We are recommending a reclassification of expenditures between departments. And then lastly, for the Special Revenue Fund, we are recommending an increase in revenues by $2.8 million, or 200%, and a decrease in expenditures by $900,000, or negative 40%. Now, the main cause for increase in Special Revenue Fund budgeted revenues is a change in the fund that the water and wastewater development fees are accounted for in. So in prior years, these fees were accounted for in the Enterprise Fund. However, due to recommendations by our external auditors, this revenue stream is now accounted for in the Special Revenue Fund. So this was just to move the cash balance from the Enterprise Fund to the Special Revenue Funds. So it's a transfer out of the Enterprise Funds and transfer into the Special Revenue Funds. So it's not true increase in revenue. The main cause for the $900,000 decrease in budget expenditures is due to timing of a project completion and largely relates to the elevated water storage tank. And we recommend that you make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-63, amending the final budget. And this completes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. We should have any questions.
Not at this time for me. I appreciate you.
Mr. Martin, it looked like you had a question.
It's my first one.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? My only comment is great job at coming in under budget. Well done. We always like to hear that. That's really all I need to hear. Under budget, right? Under budget. Public have any comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the quasi-judicial. This is the first reading of annexation. I'm going to go ahead and read the quasi-judicial procedure into the record. As long as nobody new enters the chamber, I only have to read this procedure one time. We do have multiple quasi-judicials tonight, and staff will help me make sure that I catch nobody sneaks in. So, as I said, we're entering quasi-judicial procedure. This means the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule must follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence, and the giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. I'm going to ask the city attorney this time to read into the record. This is an ordinance.
Sir, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
This is ordinance number 2023-34, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 02659-000-000 as more particularly described in this ordinance, and as petitioned for by the property owner pursuant to section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and the enforcement of same, providing for directions to the clerk of the commission, providing for a severability clause, providing for an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2023-34 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Now I'm going to ask the clerk to swear in the applicant, staff, anybody wishing to participate or requesting to speak. And as a time-saving measure, if you're here to speak to any quasi-judicial tonight, even if this is not yours, but you're on later, please rise at this time. We'll get you all sworn in at one time. Thank you.
Get your name for the record. We're going to start over here. Please.
John Paul Perez.
Brian Thomas. Gary Diedenbach.
Like he had to go.
County Vega.
Gary Wisman.
You hereby swear or affirm the testimony you truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do.
You have been doing this morning.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we need to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Remember that ex parte communications are any conversations or transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member decision. Again, it's a time-saving device. If you have anything you want to disclose for any of the quasi-judicials, let's go ahead and do it now. So for all the quasi-judicials, Commissioner Coleman?
None.
Commissioner Clark?
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
None.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Maison?
None.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have nothing to disclose as well. Now I'm going to explain the order of presentation we're going to follow for every quasi-judicial item before us tonight. First, we're going to hear from a staff overview. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Staff will then come back to give staff report and recommendation, also with no time limit. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to any of the quasi-judicial items tonight will have 3 minutes to do so. Then we'll have cross-examinations between the applicant and staff. Finally, members of the decision-making body, through the chair, will ask questions of the staff, applicant, or any of the participants. We'll hear final arguments from the applicant and the staff. Then the city attorney will advise the decision-making body as applicable law and factual findings that must be met to approve or deny the application. Then we'll enter into deliberations. After deliberations, motion will be taken to approve with conditions, table, or deny. That's the presentation order we're going to follow for all the quasi-judicials. And now we will start with staff overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. John Paul Perez with the Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you tonight is Annexation 37. Last annexation was in 2022, Annexation 36. Akin to that, we are presenting you with two landowners that are wishing to annex into the city of Newberry, Herbert Marlowe Jr. and Whitehurst Cattle Co. We're looking to join the Newberry family. They are surrounded by the city of Newberry, so they are in an enclave helping to close that and become a more contiguous city. This is going to be done in one presentation, one item, but it's two ordinances for the two different landowners, and it's a total of 4 parcels that are going to be proposed to be voluntarily annexed. On the screen before you now is the Whitehurst property, which shows its general location in the city of Newberry, being in like the southern quadrant of the city, close to or abutting Watermelon Pond. It is approximately 161 acres. This is the second property or second group of properties to be annexed. These are the Herb Marlowe properties, consisting of 3 parcels, total about 29 acres. This is right off of 337 south of 30th Avenue, where the road takes a bend from 30th Ave down to 282nd, continuing the 337 corridor. So again, first property, Whitehurst Cattle, 161 acres. As you can see, it's surrounded by the city of Newberry. Happens to still be located in unincorporated. They're looking to join Newberry now. And also, in the light gray is the unincorporated enclave. Around it, dark gray is the city of Newberry, so we're helping close that one as well. The ordinances do consist of 4 parcels, as we've seen, 190 acres total that will be added to the city tax rolls. The publication and process is in accordance with the statutes. That's all this slide is demonstrating here. And our recommendation is to approve both on first reading and establish December 11th as the date of enactment for these ordinances. That completes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. John Paul, are either of the applicants here tonight? I know one's not. Would you like to make a presentation? Come on down.
Still enamored by those large running gingerbread men, and I think Scott and I would be like the perfect height for that.
Yeah, we can make that happen. Yeah.
I don't want to voluntold your term or anything, but
I'm in, buddy.
yeah, I'm keeping us from being like the tall nutcracker, so that works out good. So, as you know, Jerry Diedenbach, CHW Professional Consultants here this evening. Good to see you all. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving as we go into this holiday season. We are here with a very simple request this evening. We have an annexation for the Whitehurst family. They have bought property that is in the context of the city of Newberry, but it is unfortunately an enclave. So we are here today at the blue line, looking at our timeline. Tonight's arrow is the first reading of the annexation. We anticipate that we will be seeking land use and zoning, and you'll see that next year. We'll be here. Those dates are, of course, subject to change in the next year. These parcels that you see here that are in purple are holes in the city of Newberry. And so the subject property is right in the center of our maps as per our usual standard. And what we are requesting is to take that parcel and to bring it into the city proper. It has the city located to the north, south, east, and west of it, so it is reducing the size of an existing enclave inside the corporate area generally is presumed as the city of Newberry. I can tell you this, our intention on this is to go for a like-kind land use and zoning. The surrounding properties today out here in the area are all agricultural in nature, and we will be seeking a rural agricultural land use and a rural agricultural zoning ultimately on this. So we are not intending to present this as anything looking for a higher intensity or density on the property. And with that, I will conclude and wish you again a happy holiday.
Thank you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you and your family had a good one. Let's see. John Paul, I heard the recommendation, right? Okay, that's going to take us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item? Go ahead and line up. Seeing none, that's going to take us to cross-examinations. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine?
No, sir.
Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Okay. That's going to take us to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions? Two annexations, both closing in existing enclaves. We have agreement with the county. This is our best bet to slowly and surely get rid of the Swiss cheese nature. Commissioner Martin?
Has this already been run up to the county, John Paul, or anything, even a verbal?
Absolutely, Commissioner Martin. We tend to not even accept an application until we check with the county first. They're of the same opinion that this satisfies statutory requirements from the state of Florida. So, yeah, no objections from Alachua County Growth Management Department.
Thank you. Any more questions? No?
Voting separately or we're voting?
Well, are we? I think we have to vote separately. 2023-34. And is that the one we read? Did you read both of them?
I did just the one 2023-34, and we have to do them separately.
Okay, so we'll go back and read. Let's get through. Did you want to make a final argument? Did you want to make a final argument? Okay. Mr. City Attorney, would you please advise us, make advice, put the law and factual findings?
On all of the quasi-judicial proceedings this evening, it will be the substantial and competent evidence standard.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll now enter deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to vote on the first ordinance, which was 2023-30.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
from Commissioner Mazon, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions on motion floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney, would you please read 2023-35 into the record?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes parcel numbers 02579-005-000, 02579-006-000, and tax parcel number 02579-007-000, as more particularly and specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, land development regulations, the enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing for an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 23-35 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Mazon. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor, still on annexations. Just filling in Newberry Swiss cheese nature. Seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us out of quasi-judicial. We'll go to legislative, but we are still in quasi-judicial as far as reading all of that into the record. So we'll try to save everybody some time. Let's see who is taking us. John Paul, are you going to take us through the small-scale future land use map amendment as you're making your way down?
Make sure you update that slide.
Thank you. I have
Yeah.
notes.
Mr. Attorney, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2023-32/CPA 23-11 into the record?
Sir, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subparagraphs 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in the future land use classification from residential low density to commercial on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Alachua County tax parcel number is 02173-000-000 on a site consisting of approximately 0.28 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass ordinance number 2023-32 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. John Paul, take us away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you tonight is a small-scale future land use map amendment for the cold storage building just northeast of us on the same block. The following item to this will be a rezoning, not to confuse the matter, but that will be remarkably similar to this presentation. The cold storage property is located on Northwest First Ave and 254th Street. This slide shows the future expansion of the State Road 26 roadway, where the westbound traffic will be moved off of the existing State Road 26 and moved onto Northwest First Avenue. The reason that's relevant is currently the property is zoned for residential uses. This land use it carries is also for residential. The intended use case and historical use case for the property has been primarily non-residential in nature. And so the proposal is to change the residential low-density future land use to commercial to support the future commercial corridor that may exist along the state road. And current plans for the renovation of the building that you see ongoing currently. Here's another image showing the current future land use in context with other land uses, and the proposed land use in context with other future land uses. As you can see, where we have State Road 26, a lot of the traffic moving through does so in what is a typical downtown commercial corridor. The concurrency analysis, there is no change to traffic or wastewater, as the use will remain remarkably similar to what was there previously, until such time that we know what the use case is going to be. There's no additional analysis that can be done. It's non-residential in nature, so it will not impact schools or parks. With that, that concludes my presentation. We do find it consistent with the comp plan and land development regulations, and we are recommending approval of this on first reading. If this does get approved tonight, we intend on bringing it back on December 11th. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions? Yeah. Commissioner Mazan.
Are we still shutting down 254th?
Oh, great question. I don't have an answer to that.
That'll be you guys' decision when we do the comprehensive city hall plan.
Okay.
So you guys will get to pick. We have been communicating with the property owners there about what and right at this point, their plan is to remodel the outside of the building, get it ready to go, leave the inside really untouched until they find a tenant, someone to lease it. That way they can build out for something specific. But we've been involved with them, and we certainly want to hear their feedback about their thoughts. Do they want that traffic? Do they want the increased parking? Those kinds of things. So we're trying to be good partners with that whole process. Okay. Good for you. Commissioner Martin, did you have a...
So even though this was the cold storage, where historically it was just stuck in residential?
I think the mayor has the answer to this one.
It's just odd.
That building was actually zoned residential. It was never zoned commercial.
Right.
So it was always out of zone. And I think what happened was that somebody did live there to make sure they stoked the fire all night long. So they claimed residents. This was clearly all 100 years ago.
Cool quirk.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Anybody have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, question, motion on the floor. This is to take the cold storage to more appropriate usage. Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Randa, I've seen people leave, but I haven't seen anybody new come in. You agree? Perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that entire. We swore everybody in. We did ex parte. So at this point, I'm just going to ask the attorney if you would please read on item 10 on first reading ordinance 2023-33/LDR 23-16 into the record for us.
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 4.29 acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry land development regulations, providing for the rezoning from residential single-family RSF2 and commercial Central Business District, CCBD zoning districts to public facilities, and Commercial Central Business District, C-CBD zoning districts on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Letcher County tax parcel numbers are 02173-000-000 and 02174-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2023-33 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. John Paul, you can go and give us the overview. If the applicant's not present, we can slide right into your presentation and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Again, John Paul, Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you tonight is a rezoning of the City Hall property, including cold storage. As a whole block, we'll be rezoning it. This just shows the existing conditions of both properties. And this is the current zoning designation for both properties. Cold storage is zoned residential single family. In the City Hall property where the grass parking is in the rear, that is also zoned single family. And the City Hall property that we're standing on today is zoned commercial central business district. The City Hall property does have a future land use of public, and so we intend on changing the zoning district for the City Hall property to public facilities, which we adopted recently, and it will allow more flexibility with the future development of the site with the new City Hall. And the cold storage property will be going to from residential single family to commercial central business district, consistent with other properties in the downtown area. The commercial central business district is a more flexible mixed-use district appropriate for downtown areas. One of the properties that was seen recently, and I believe this was by the Historical Architectural Review Board, was the Bounds property. They had a rezoning recent, actually, and they chose the Central Business District because it allows them to do the commercial on the ground floor as well as putting some residential units on the top floor.
Is residential.
And so the proposed zoning, if approved, would look something similar to this, where the the City Hall property will be public facilities and the cold storage property will be central business district. What this does is align the current uses of the property with the zoning districts, and it's no additional impact or change that's occurring at this particular moment. So staff does find the request consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations, and we are recommending approval of the ordinance. That completes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status on this agenda item, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any new members of the public wishing to speak to this item, you have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, that's going to take us, we're going to skip cross-examinations. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any comments, questions, deliberations? Seeing none, John Paul, you want to make a argument?
None, sir. Thank you.
City attorney's already advised us about this applicable law and factual findings, so we'll enter into deliberations. If there are any deliberations, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from
Second.
Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Farnsworth? We're still in quasi judicial, by the way.
We are.
Yeah, but we're out of that one. We're just in between two.
I was just kind of curious if you have any other public properties that are zoned incorrectly.
It's a good question. Did you hear it, John Paul?
I hear it, and we can report back to the commission. I think on the tax rolls, we have a total of 55 different properties in the city, and we are looking at them. Are there any particular properties that stand out?
You're talking about city-owned property. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're working through trying to get all of them zoned to the new, because you guys really just created that Publix ordinance, I don't know, 2 years ago, somewhere along there. So we're trying to get everything moved through. And I would remind everybody watching that it is the intention, but the state keeps moving their timeline for the two-way pairs. It is still our intention to rezone all of First Street, the newly made Newberry Road, to commercial. It'll stay residential as long as they're living there, but if they want to sell it for commercial, we'll do that on our dime. That was a question at the P&Z when we talked about this. That still is the plan, but because the state keeps kind of shifting their plans back, we haven't lit a fire under anybody to get that done, but we will do it all at one time when it's appropriate to do so. Mr. Coleman?
I'm just curious, when it's church property, would that be under a different zoning? Because it's under residential right now.
Churches are generally permitted anywhere within a city, in most cases by special exception. So you can have them in a single-family district like it is currently, but you could also have it in, a commercial district or even an agricultural district as a special exception.
So a church can be in any district, but now I'm curious too. What is a church ideally supposed to be zoned as? Is there a zoning package for a church, or because they can be anywhere, they're just kind of nebulous?
Yes, sometimes it's institutional for places of assembly. They'll include something like that. We don't have an institutional zoning category, which is fine. I believe our current churches are unique. Every church is different from the next church.
Some churches meet in schools.
Exactly. Yeah. And some may have different hours that they keep, and so each one is kind of a case-by-case basis.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Don't go far. We're still in quasi-judicial, right? I'm going to ask the attorney if you would please read Resolution 2023-59/SD23-08 into the record for us.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida. Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate conditions and safeguards the preliminary plat of Phase 1 of Tanglewood Plan Development as authorized under 5.16 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations for a planned development PD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. More particularly described in Exhibit A, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is passed, resolution number 2023-59, as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
We've quasi, all right, we're good. John Paul, give us an overview. If the applicant's not present, but I think he is, right? We'll go to there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, John Paul, Planning and Economic Development. The request before you tonight is a preliminary plat request for Tanglewood. Tanglewood is a 220-acre planned development that proposes 636 single-family homes and approximately 150,000 square feet of non-residential uses. It's generally located at the southwest corner of Southwest 202 and State Road 26. Phase 1 consists of 106 homes and a commercial site with an undefined amount of commercial square footage. It is the first of 4 phases. The next step for this would be construction plans and then final plat, so this is not the last time you'll see it. And you'll be seeing each extra phase in a similar fashion. This is a sketch of the preliminary plat showing the street and lot layout, as well as some of the stormwater facilities and the commercial area on the north side of the Duke Energy lines and that triangle. This is also one of the primary ingress and egresses for the site. It also includes an amenity center site. This is a preliminary plat, so we don't have construction drawings for that or what that will manifest as. We'll see that probably during construction plans. This main road segment also connects to the future water tower site that will be located at the southwest corner. And also has that buffer for Tropic Traditions. They had requested a 50-foot buffer. That's been honored, as shown here. Also has the overlay district buffer along State Road 26. Here's a close-up of the lot layout and the road layout, the southern portion of that, so you can see it all. It's total about 50 acres of the 220. And just, again, steps, next is going to be construction plans and final plat. Then you'll start seeing some dirt being moved on the site, and then individual lot development, and they'll rinse and repeat that process with each phase going forward. The applicant's available for any questions if you have any. I'll take a moment to pause.
Okay, let's go ahead and get there. You have a presentation ready? Oh, you
No
want a
presentation, they're here for questions.
Okay, all right, sorry, I misunderstood our nod there. All right, so I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item tonight will have 3 minutes to do so. Anybody? Hearing none, then that's going to move us on. Did you hear anything that you want to cross-examine out of that presentation, sir? No? All right. Thank you. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
With this phase one, when will the commercial development start?
That's a great question. It baked into the development order, and I'm going to defer the rest of it to the applicant to answer that question. They must, do a connection to 202 and do that improvement, but prior to the commencement of phase 4, they must have at least made them like shovel ready for commercial development. So there is no timing, forced timing, besides prior to the final phase. And I'll let either Gary Weisman or CHW respond to the actual construction.
They have to phase 4 though. Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mr. Mayor, I'm Walker Owen, Project Manager with CHW. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Florida. I'd like to thank John Paul for the great presentation. We appreciate it. There's not a specific timing laid out for the commercial, as he was saying, just prior to phase 4.
It's going to be prior to phase 4?
Yes, sir.
Voted on that.
There's no specific amount of commercial property commercial footage that's going to be on the property?
There is a maximum amount of commercial square footage. If I could refer to my plans real quick, I can tell you that specific amount.
Mr. Weisman, do you remember the maximum, and I can't remember if it was acreage or square footage, for commercial? 150,000 square foot of commercial.
Okay.
You go.
Well, John Paul said there's undefined commercial amount, so I didn't know.
You want to clarify?
So the overall PD limits the commercial at 150,000, so they can't go beyond that number. Each site has a FAR, floor area ratio, that they have to maintain, which is a 1, which is pretty generous. Most site developments that are one-story don't even get close to that. So with this, they've identified the site, but not an actual site user or an actual floor plan, so there's no specific square footage program for this particular site. And I think that's the question, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
What's going here on this site? Unfortunately, it's unknown at this point, so.
So they could put a 600 square foot commercial building on there and satisfy the,
Potentially.
yeah.
Potentially.
I'm not so sure I'm all in favor of that.
Sure. I'm going to.
The commercial parcel in Phase 1 is only an acre or two in size. So, you wouldn't be seeing anything on the order of 600,000 square feet there.
By the time phase 4 goes into effect, there'll be other commercial footage or property also, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And how long?
Can I clarify, Commissioner Farnsworth, are you worried that they're going to put too much commercial, or they're not going to be focused?
They're not going to be focusing on.
They're not going to be focused. Your question is, you could satisfy the requirement to move on the commercial with a substandard, in their perception, a substandard focus on the commercial. So all the commission's trying to do is make sure that our developers are developing a residential and commercial in tandem. Because what our experience in the past has been is that we have a mixed use, something like this. People build out all the houses and then they come back to the commission and say, well, nobody went for the commercial, so I wanted to change that now to residential. So we'd like to see sort of an equal kind of a focus on housing permits and commercial permits walking hand in hand, which is why we have the stipulation in there. So that's what Commissioner Farnsworth is trying. So can you say anything to the commission that kind of waylays those types of concerns?
It's required to be built out before Phase 4 is complete.
I did look at a transportation impact analysis today from CHW, which is contemplating the traffic impacts of Tanglewood development. In there, they have to give the highest and best use. Now, that is not part of this application, just making that abundantly clear. But some of the uses that they were analyzing was about 4,000 square feet of fast food, about 60,000 square feet of general office, and the remainder was for retail that they were looking at and analyzing for impacts to roadways for this particular planned development.
And just for the public's knowledge, this would be in the overlay district. The overlay district is a district along our corridors that has a higher level standard of building. It's got to be more aesthetically pleasing, those kinds of things. And this commercial would be inside that district. Commissioner Farnsworth, you still have the floor.
And how long will it take to complete phase 4?
Oh, that's a question of the ages, sir. I think Gary Weisman would have a good answer for this one, given he's a veteran of the
Come on down and tell us what's your overall timeline for this development? What are you planning on?
Loans will go ahead.
By next Christmas?
I'm Gary Weisman. I'm the developer, and unfortunately, I do not have a crystal ball, so we don't know what the economy or anything else is going to do. But if I had to take a wild guess, I'd say the whole development may take 12 or 15 years.
How many years did you work on Newberry Oaks? And you're still not quite done.
Probably 15 years.
Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner?
How many houses are you planning to build per year?
That we don't know either, Commissioner. I'm sorry, but that's, we would hope maybe we're going to be in the 30 to 50. I mean, it could be worse if we have a crash. It could be better if the economy takes off like it was 4 or 5 years ago. But, I wouldn't want to mislead you into saying something, but I would just guess it might be something like that. But it could be more, it could be less.
How many houses could you build in a year? If the economy is going well, just with your men, your guys, your crew, how many houses could you build in a year?
Maybe 60 or 70.
60 or 70, kind of top out just in how many windows and doors and roofers you could
Well,
get.
that's, we're not big-time company like some of the other ones
Yeah.
around here in Alachua County, but we're pretty much family-oriented, and that's, at this time, that's probably all we could handle.
Okay. Commissioner, you still got the floor.
I'm done.
All right, other questions? Commissioner Mazon? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Mazon?
That was so sweet. When do you plan on breaking ground?
If all goes well, we could conceivably break ground before the end of next year.
End of next year?
Before the end of 24 was probably our best-case scenario.
And does it take more time to build custom homes than the houses that you're talking about? Is that why it's 60 or 70 as opposed to like done?
Well, we're not geared up to build 100 houses a year like some of these national builders
Takes time to build
that are
custom
around.
homes.
Yeah, we're not geared up to do that kind of volume.
That one, but I don't think this might be for JP, unless Mr. Weisman can answer it. The outline of the yellow, did we say it was a water tower? What was the yellow?
The yellow is the amenity center.
The amenity center.
Yeah.
Okay. How big is that?
The property or the center?
Well, the outline of the yellow, how many acres or size is that?
I believe it's a half acre.
Okay.
The site.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
Okay, Mr. Weisman, you want to make a final argument, or do you want to ask Mr. Owens?
Unless anybody's got any questions.
John Paul, you want to make a final argument? Okay. We are been advised by the city attorney, so we'll enter into deliberations. Actually, we had a new person walk in, so would you advise the commission one more time, Mr. Attorney, about the city bank, since we had someone new walk in?
Yes, sir. It is substantial and competent evidence, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Just checking the box. Okay, now we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I can't support this without a more definitive plan on the commercial property.
Okay. I mean, we had an extensive conversation about that back when we approved the zoning. And I know we went back and forth on it back then. And I can't remember how the vote went, but you've been clear and consistent all along about wanting more commercial in line with residential, but it's always going to be a compromise. And there's also some limitations to how much we can do there. So you can always make an amended motion to try to open that back up, or if there's nobody else that feels the same way, we can move forward. Commissioner Farnsworth has been very clear. He just wants to see, I think you're more in like 25% residential, 25% commercial, another 25%. And I can't quite remember the conversation we had, but there were some problems trying to dole it out that way. I don't know if that's something the rest of the board wants to go back and rehash, or if we're willing to just move forward.
It just seems very lopsided to do all the residential and then come back and do the commercial.
John Paul, by the time they have to get the commercial done, I know they can move through phase 4. What's that percentage? How many phases were there?
4 total.
4 total. And are they doing them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4? Are they breaking them up, doing 1, then 4, then 3?
They can break it up as they see fit. So just because they're numbered in sequence doesn't mean they have to be constructed in sequence. We did discuss.
I thought there was some percentage, they couldn't finish all the residential before they even started on the commercial. They can't start on phase 4.
Correct. They can't start phase 4.
Okay, that's right.
Yep.
That's not what the gentleman just said a minute ago.
That's what it is, yeah.
My
So
understanding
that's
is-
75%, they can get 75% residential roughly, because each phase is an equal percentage, but it's somewhere in that
is
realm.
before phase 4 was completed, is what I understood.
No, prior to the commencement of phase 4. Yeah, they have to be shovel ready.
That win you back over? Think of it. Commissioner Clark?
So When we debated this on the last time, I know we went through a rigorous thing, and I know that Mr. Weisman has given the tropical nursery exactly what he wanted. He is, we talked about this, and even Mr. Weisman said, if a group comes in and wants commercial property, he'll put the shovel in the ground and start making it happen. So if somebody wants it, he already said that he's willing to go ahead and open the commercial in our last conversation. So he is willing and wanting as quick as we are. So I'm just trying to give you, we done went through this one time already, and it was quite obvious that he wants it as much as we do, and that he ain't gonna back out or he can't finish the project. So the goal for the builder who's sitting right here is to build the commercial if somebody wants it, correct?
That's what I
And he
understand.
can.
That's what I understand.
Okay.
And I think that there's going to be an awful lot of interest in commercial in that corridor.
Absolutely.
Fairly soon. Obviously, to your concern, you know, that's back to the crystal ball, right? We're trying to put things in paper. So I understand what Commissioner Farnsworth is saying. I think that this is not going to be one of those times where we have that problem. I think there's going to be people knocking on his door pretty soon.
And he did say
I don't think anybody turns it down.
No,
It's just about going out, looking for it, advocating for it.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the dais? Okay, that's going to take us, I need a motion. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any more comments, questions on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none. Roll call, Commissioner Mazon?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. That moves us to item 12. We did have someone new join us, so I'm going to have to read our quasi-judicial procedure back into the record. So we are staying in a quasi-judicial procedure. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board. That means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. Primary rule, we must follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met. When the judicial board makes a decision, this standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony taken under oath, everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered evidence. Giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. I'm going to go ahead and ask the attorney if you would read Resolution 2023-55/SD23-10 into the record for us.
Yes, sir. There's a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate conditions and safeguards the preliminary plat of the Magnolia Acres subdivision as authorized under Section 5.16 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations for preliminary plat on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. The tax parcel number is 02545-000-000, consisting of approximately 80 acres, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass resolution number 2023-55 as read by title only.
Okay, did anybody enter the room that is here to speak to any quasi-judicial tonight that needs to be sworn in? No? Okay. We've done ex parte. So I'm going to explain the order of presentation we will follow for all the quasi-judicials tonight. We're going to hear first from our staff with an overview, then the applicant has the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then staff will come back and give their report and recommendation also with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant has the opportunity to cross-examine. The staff can cross-examine. Members of the decision-making body through the chair can ask questions of the staff or the applicant. Final arguments will be made by the applicant and the staff. City attorney will advise decision-making bodies with belonging facts and findings must be made or met to approve or deny the application. Then we'll deliberate, and after deliberation, the motion will be taken to approve, continue, table, or deny. That's the order we're going to go in, and we'll begin with our staff. Come on down, Ms. Uma. And if the applicant's not here, then you can move right into, is the applicant here?
Applicant is here.
Applicant's here, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner. This is Uma Sarveshta, Planning and Economic Development. I'm presenting Resolution 2023-55 SD2310, preliminary plat for Magnolia Acres. This is generally located south of Southwest 15th Avenue and east of Southwest 226th Street. The parcel is 02545-000-000. This is approximately 80 acres. Agent is EDA, and the petition is by the owner RRL Newberry Holding. This is the location of the property. This is the aerial view. It is south of Southwest 15th Avenue.
Just so everybody
sorry.
knows where this is, so Southwest 15th Avenue, back behind, what's it behind? Tropic Traditions will locate you, right? So, 80 acres on 15, it'll exit on Southwest 15th Avenue. That's where we're at. You with me now? Everybody got the location? All right, go ahead, Ms. Uma.
Thank you. So the request is a preliminary plat, plat for Magnolia Acre subdivision, proposed 15 single-family lot. The minimum lot size is 5 acre, density is 5.3 acres. It will be a gated community with 40-foot vegetative buffer. We have the applicant here for any question. She trusted my presentation, so she waived her presentations. If you have any question for her, Claudia is here from EDA.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mayor,
Hey, yes.
I'm confused. 170th is 241 South.
226.
Yeah.
I think you're confusing me. Okay. Now
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here going, man.
Yeah, but we're on the same page now. And Ms. Uma, you finished your report. The applicant is waiving the right to make a report. Yep, okay. No, you don't have to. That takes us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Hearing none, we'll come back. Did you hear anything that you'd like to cross-examine, ma'am? No. No? Okay. That's going to take us to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions of our staff or the applicant?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't finish the presentation? I thought I heard the recommendation.
No, I just have this subdivision plat.
Go right ahead.
Yes, because we were waiting for her. So, yes, we have a Magnolia Acre subdivision plat here, which has like 15 lots. The roads will be paved and maintained by the HOA, and it will be a gated community. Sewer and water line will be connected. They will have their own water and wastewater connection. Staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Regulation. And here I end my presentation. I'm here for any question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Uma. That's going to take us now to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
Uma, I'm looking at the aerial, and Google Maps actually has a 222nd terrace on the western boundary. Does that affect anything that we have going on here, and whose road is that?
That's
Do
a
you
good
know?
question, and I would ask Brian.
You're a road guy.
I was gonna say, I can
Is that a private road or city?
Yeah,
It's a private road.
Yeah,
It looks like private.
right next to a big oak tree that's been out there.
It is a privately owned and maintained road.
Thank you, Brian.
I had
Thank
to find
you.
that address, that's how I.
Is the,
Thank you, Commissioner Tony.
Okay, good.
is that the obligation of this property owner or the ones to the west?
To the west.
Okay. I should make it come back up here to the west? Okay.
Street.
That's all I got.
Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Mayor, give me the exact plot of this. I'm actually confused on which piece of 80 acres this is off of 15th. This writing is so small, I suppose you have to be
You need more than
a
6
magnifier.
Come on, Mayor.
If I can't get it bigger than this, I'm gonna have to,
Mark, this sandy looking one here. This is 226, so it's one property over.
Yeah, the second property.
From the immediate southeast corner, it's one.
If you think of Tropic Traditions, it
Yep.
just goes south. It's behind Tropic Traditions.
This is the overall picture if you want.
So this was,
You know where 226
this is the field. I got you.
You shot that buck right there.
No. 30th, 15th.
While the commissioner is looking.
Go ahead.
At that, these are 5-acre lots. This is what a lot of our residents have been asking for is, more rural, more space, bigger lots. So this is bringing in 80. It's a paved road, gated community. So we're talking about very, very low density emptying out on to 15th. 15th is a county road. But we all know that it needs some work, but we're not talking about high level of density that's going in here. Commissioner Clark, did you get oriented?
Yeah.
You got, anybody else got any more questions? Do we know who the builder is going to be yet? Not yet. Okay. A little early in the stage for that, but maybe you can bid on it.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll go out there and build a house.
Yes, I'm down.
Yeah. Any
My
other
neighbor?
questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Why do we only require one road in and out on this subdivision? Why are we requiring only one road?
Because this is a rural subdivision and they have homes at both
Do we
sides.
not require two ingress, egress?
Do we require ingress and egress? Our code says one.
Given the amount of traffic that's going to be generated by this development, we didn't feel it appropriate, given the context, that it would need a road network connection. Also, it not being on a state road, it's in our comp plan where we have properties connecting to state roads to relieve that state road of overburden of traffic for small local trips that they connect to adjacent properties. Since this is off of 15th Avenue, low traffic count, and this is going to be a private road, meaning that the public's not maintaining this, paying for this in any way. It's going to be the HOA that'll be established by these neighbors. We're not requiring them to connect to any adjacent parcels at this time.
Any requirement to improve 15th?
No, not at this time. Not from the city, anyway.
But we will get impact fees from these houses, which could go into improving, not our road, we would use them to improve our road, but they could be coupled.
Was that part of 15th in Alachua County?
That stretch of 15th is Alachua County Road. So, but we could say, well, we have some impact fees to partner with if you guys want to fix that road, right? We have the opportunity to do that kind of in the future.
Is there any part of this that's going to be green area or common area?
That is not a requirement in our code, and since these are 5-acre lots, we don't require this in our code.
It'll mostly be green.
They will have all the greens.
Commissioner Coleman?
I was going to help.
Oh, they will have a 40-foot buffer around the property too.
I was going to help Commissioner Farnsworth. Imagine Half Moon Station cut in half. It's pretty much identical.
How many acres is your property on?
I think that was an 80-acre piece.
You talking to that side, not his.
Yeah.
5-acre tracts, they're nice.
Yeah.
I will say, I know it ain't but 15 homes, and I'm all about that, but 15th is a terrible road, and I don't know, we require everybody else that builds subdivisions to help put something in on the roads, every other subdivision we've done, but this road here is absolutely terrible to add anymore.
Well,
especially
we're kind of
on this end.
The cart before the horse on this conversation. I wasn't going to bring it up during the quasi-judicial, and the applicant has agreed to it. They don't have a problem with it, but we right now, this came up in the P&Z, if you want to create a 5-acre subdivision, doesn't matter how many houses, we require you to put in a paved road. And I think one of the reasons why we see so few of these applications, which so many of our residents are asking us to encourage, is that we have created a system where it's really not financially feasible if I'm building 15 houses, I'm not sure how they're running the numbers here to put in, because that's, I don't know, what, a quarter mile of a paved road?
At least, I understand.
So that's gonna be tough. I mean, it might be, where are we, on first reading on this? First reading?
This is just one reading.
That's of the road.
Right. Well, Barrington's is the 2 acre, really high scale. I'm not sure what scale this is, but my thought here was that there may be an opportunity to say, you know, we're willing to have a nice chip sealed road, milled road, and we'd like the difference to go into helping out, you know, at least the distance of the entranceway on 15th. I don't know what that looks like, if that's possible. And again, it's kind of late in the process to throw that kind of a conversation into it.
This is the only chance we get.
Let's say rezone it.
Well, this is the preliminary plat, so we'll have an opportunity to come back to it. And I think from the applicant standpoint, if it's just kind of if it's a segue, whatever I save on that, I'll put into the road in front.
Or
I mean, generally, when we required developers to improve road, that was before we had impact fees.
Yeah.
Right? And generally, that's on much higher density. When you're bringing in 500 houses, there's going to be, 1,000 cars going in and out. On something like this, I don't think we didn't require Barrington to improve the outside road, right? Because it was such a low impact. Brian?
I was going to say, Mr. Ray, you just stated what I was going to bring up, is that because of the size and the relatively low impact that it's going to have on 15th, but also too, again, to your point, we'll now be collecting transportation impact fees that'll go into improvements, not necessarily right in front of this development, but somewhere in the network. And then the other thing about the paved road requirement, my belief is that the intent, and that precedes my tenure here, but the intent of that was to encourage fewer manufactured housing neighborhoods by making it a little bit more expensive. And in terms of the way this is intended to be a fairly high-end development, and so it works out that the paving requirement, whether we had it or not, I'm sure they would have paved it anyway. But as I understand it from the previous planning director, that was part of the intent, was to discourage a bunch of manufactured home 5 acre neighborhoods in favor of actually site-built homes.
Will there be an HOA, any type thing in this?
Yes. That's what's going to pay for it to maintain it.
Gated homeowners.
I mean, what they're trying to do, they may want a paved road. The comment that came out of the P&Z was, it's got to be tough for most people to pull off this if
Absolutely.
they have to pay for the paved road.
Well, I think it's our due diligence and to get with the county, because you're bringing in this high-end stuff, and we got a road that's absolutely atrocious. So
we haven't tried talking with the county yet, but we'll try that. We'll see.
Well, we need to just try it again.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be facetious.
But anyway, okay.
Keep trying to talk.
Keep trying.
Right? Any more questions about this preliminary plat? No? Okay.
Are there any magnolias on these acres?
That's a good question.
Yeah, they're going to come, right? Ma'am, would you like to make a final argument? No. Uma, would you like to make a final argument?
No, I'm good, sir.
Okay. We've been advised by our attorney, so we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Maison, second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor for 5 acre subdivisions, what everybody wants, right around them, right? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Remember you said
Motion passes unanimously. Oh, that was 12, right?
Remember that.
That
We're on
was
13.
12.
Okay, so
I
we're
was
still.
on 13.
Yeah, that's why I'm checking. All right, we're still in quasi judicial. Nobody new has entered the room, so I don't have to read all that again. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2023-56/SD2309 into the record for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving the final plat entitled Barrington Replat, consisting of 39 acres more or less, as authorized under Section 5.18 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations in an agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is passed. Resolution number 23-56 as read by title only.
We've done swearing, we've done ex parte, we're ready for the staff overview. Nobody's contacted me to claim third party or get the status on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This probably looks familiar to the commission. You guys heard this on October 23rd. This is a rehearing. There was a flaw in the hearing process pointed out by the city clerk, so we're just rehearing the same exact item. Everything's been read into the record correctly. For the record, my name is John Paul with the Planning and Economic Development Department. Would the commission like the same presentation again, or do you recall?
What was the flaw? I think just focus on the flaw.
Okay, so in hearing the item, the ordinance that adopted the Barrington subdivision initially was read and not the actual ordinance that was being considered by the commission at that time, and so we're now rehearing it with the correct ordinance title being read into the record. That is the flaw. That is the only reason why I'm standing here today.
We're sorry, Ms. Judy.
Good catch, though. Well done. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Neither did I, so.
And is there an applicant from here that wants to?
No applicant here tonight.
Okay. That's going to take us to public comment. Any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, that's going to move us to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions? That was the one question. What was the flaw? Do you want to make a final argument?
No, thank you, Mayor.
We've been advised by the city attorney that'll take us to deliberations. If there are any deliberations, I'll have a motion. Have a motion from Commissioner Barnes, second from Commissioner Mazon. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor of the dais? Seeing none, public comments, question on the motion on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we're on to agenda items. This is item 14 is the solar farm presentation by CHW and Florida Renewable Partners. For the folks watching in the audience, I want to remind this is just a presentation. We're not making any decisions tonight. We're here to hear from the public. We're here to hear from the applicant. I also want to remind everybody that the solar ordinance has been on our books for quite some time. Our conversation about it is how do we tweak it? How do we make it something that everybody can work with? We don't really have the option. We can remove the solar ordinance in the future, but that would not affect this applicant. So what we're talking about and what we need to hear feedback on is how do we all live and work together on this thing in an amicable way. I just want to make sure we're all clear, and I'm dropping commissioners like flies. I want to make sure we're all clear on that, on the goal here. So we do want to hear the feedback. We've been collecting public comments and through email, at the post office, on the phone, but I want to make sure we mitigate everybody's expectations. The goal here today is how do we tweak our existing solar ordinance to make sure we have vegetative buffers, have a conversation about berms, all of those kinds of things. But there was a solar ordinance on the books when this applicant moved forward, so there are limitations to what can be done here with this particular applicant. With that as a preface, Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to introduce Mr. Scott Scoville. He's the project manager for Florida Renewable Partners. They'll be giving the presentation tonight. And CHW is also here being represented by Craig Bashir, who's Director of Planning for CHW.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Scott Scoville. I'm Project Director with Florida Renewable Partners. Thank you for having us tonight. It's been a long time coming, and there's been a little hiccups on us getting in front of you and before the community, but thank you for having us on the agenda tonight, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for being here. You got a clicker there that is a test to see how intelligent. Oh, look at that. Oh. Nailed it.
Nailed it. Like I said, I am with Florida Renewable Partners, and just a quick clarification on who we are. Next Year Energy Inc. is the world's largest renewable energy provider. Next Year Energy consists of two main subsidiaries: Florida Power and Light, which serves 5.8 million customers in Florida, and Next Year Energy Renewable Next Year Energy Resources. They serve 49 states in Canada. They are the world's largest renewable energy company. Florida Renewable Partners is under Next Year Energy Resources. We are a subsidiary of Energy Resources, and we do not sell power to Florida Power and Light. We work outside of their service territory. There is a distinction there. Our main business is to develop renewable energy for other parties under a power purchase agreement, a development agreement, a build own transfer. Like I said, we are not Florida Power and Light. We sell to other customers here in Florida. We are committed, Florida Renewable Partners is committed to doing the right thing in the communities for all stakeholders. That's the community, the neighbors, the residents. Every project is unique, and it starts meaning every project is unique, and part of our success has always been working with the communities, working with the county staff, the local ordinances, and the main thing is starting a dialogue with the community. And it may seem like we've been late doing it, but I think our success will be continued to an open dialogue with all stakeholders and the community. I had a discussion tonight before with a few of the members of the community before we got here. That's the start.
And can you give us, I know it's a fluid timeline, but can you tell us, if everything goes your way, when would you love to break ground out there?
Yeah, I kind of laughed earlier. I'm sitting in front of you not as an applicant, which is unique. We are kind of very early in this process. We purchased the site back in March. We have not even started our due diligence on the project, on the site yet. So the next steps for us are spending the next year doing all the environmental reviews, stormwater reviews. We'll do geotech sample soil borings for our engineering work. That would take a year. The earliest we could ever have an application in front of the commission here would be about a year or two from now, 2025 or 2024. This project interconnects into Duke Energy Florida's system, their bulk transmission system. We have a large generator interconnection agreement with Duke Energy for the project. We're looking at 4 years of transmission upgrades, so we can't do anything. We could never energize for at least 4 years, maybe 5 years for this project. So, yeah, we're looking 5 years out right now before we can do anything.
And I just want to say, because this is at least the second, it might be the third time that you guys have come, listened to the public, talked to the commission about this. And that's before an application has actually been submitted. And that's pretty, I don't think that we've ever had anyone who has communicated with us, communicated with our residents as much before they even had an application present. So thank you for your commitment to wanting to hear from the residents, hear their concerns, and be part of the conversation. I think that's worth saying.
No, thank you. I appreciate the feedback, and that will go back to our organization, because that's part of what we do is trying to get in front of everybody early and get that dialogue open. So thank you. Florida Renewable Partners, like I said, we under the Next Year umbrella, we leverage the most solar permitting, construction, and operating experience here in Florida. To date, under that umbrella, we have 69 operating solar facilities. I am personally proud to have brought 13 of those into operations. So I've been with either FPL or Florida Renewable Partners now for 7 years. So very, very proud of bringing responsible renewable energy to Florida. Real quick, how solar energy is a very passive form of energy production. We'll have 74.5 megawatts of solar panels on a site. It's approximately, by today's standards, about 200,000 panels. They will absorb the energy from the sun. That goes to an inverter where the DC voltage is converted to AC. In an inverter box, it's taken from 34,500 volts. It's collected on the site to a general step-up transformer that's stepped up into, in this case, 230,000 volts in the Duke system, and it would be into their bulk system for delivery to a customer that we are looking for right now.
You may address this later, but we have some residents who have concerns about solar farms interfering with pacemakers, solar panels melting and putting chemicals into the the environment. Can you address those kinds of concerns?
Yeah,
You have that later on?
Right.
I won't jump. Look at that.
Perfect. A solar project is really simply solar panels and an inverter box. The inverters, they do, so let me back up. A solar project is virtually silent. You can't see it, it's virtually invisible. We do not run at night. There's no lights associated with it. It's a very passive form of energy. The average solar panel, that is a colleague of mine. He is 6'5", and he is the height of the panel, so it's a minimal impact, visual impact to a site. I think through proper buffering, we can visually shield the projects from public view, and at 6.5 foot high. The inverter is where the energy is collected and stepped up to 34,500 volts. There's 18 to 22, depending on the technology on a site. They're distributed throughout the site. They do make, when they operate, there's a sound associated with their operation. However, that sound dissipates at the property line. You go to the fence line of a nearby project, you simply can't hear it over the road.
If I'm standing next to it, give me something comparable. Is it a tractor? Is it a well running? Would be a comparable noise level if I'm standing next to it?
A low-level pump running, maybe?
Pump running?
I mean, when you're standing right next to it, but when you back up 300 feet, it's ambient background noise.
Let me, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your information. I had the pleasure today to go, I knew this was coming. I went and visited this site that's built out on 232. And so when we talk about buffers, some of the fencing, you couldn't even see this thing with the fencing at an angle, but the noise was absolutely, I mean, my ears buzz, but the one thing I heard was so minimal, we had to literally, if there was a truck going by, you couldn't hear nothing. So any kind of car or anything else running, it is absolutely lower noise level than we have in our irrigation pumps or anything else that we have in our farm community. I will say that because it was a very clean site. It was very well maintained. Everything in it was nice, and I think some of the proposals they were offering, I'll let them speak on it, and fencing and some of the other stuff. It's not a big impact. I know the constituents are against some of this, but I would absolutely say that with y'all giving the presentation, I would love for the board members that have not went out and seen it would take the opportunity to do that, and the constituents who want to see something and hear it firsthand, go to it. And if you haven't had the chance, it's a good thing to visit. So go ahead, sir.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that, Clark. Me, Dallas, Mike New, if you remember, we went to Kissimmee, St. Clouds, and visited the one that you have ownership in. And I think the loudest noise was when it was moving with the sun. I think that was about it, but it was very quiet. You couldn't hear anything. It was very quiet, very minimal.
And I'll say this before we get off. I'll let him finish his thing. I know we got a long night. The technology, the questions I asked were, I mean, the technology has been from, he can speak on whatever the voltage was, it doubled in the solar panel. In the next 4 to 5 years, that same technology may double again. So if they're at 75 watts of power max before they go to another whole level of permitting, that if they stay in this, that this 800 acres may be reduced by 50 acres of solar panels. So we're really hypothetically thinking of something we don't even know what we're really getting into yet, because 4 years of technology can change a lot. So I would say, and then thank you, but go ahead.
No, when I started this in 2017, we were using about 325 watt panels. Today, they're up around 600 watts DC per panel. So it's like a significant increase in just 6 years. So yeah, in 4 years, it's going to look like that. But we don't know what the technology is going to look like. Right now, we're using 22 to 24 inverters per site. Some of the new ones are coming out with, they're down to 18. So just as the technology advances and increases, in 4 years, it could be completely, not different, but it'll be significantly different.
Did you address the pacemaker?
Pacemaker. I'm not. one thing we hear in public a lot is EMF. You know, EMF, the impact, electromagnetic fields. You know, in nature, there's there's electrofields and there's magnetic fields. So when you hook to a power source, you have electric fields. When the current passes through an electronic device, you have magnetic fields. It's naturally occurring in nature. It occurs on a solar project. It occurs in your home through microwaves, hair dryers, electronic devices. It's a naturally occurring environment. Every study by the National Institute of Health, World Health Organization said there's no cause and effect from electromagnetic and health. I mean,
I haven't been able to find a peer-reviewed scientific study that links that. So I've had residents send me stuff, but when I research the people who write it, their credentials become questionable. But this is not my field. Are you aware of any peer-reviewed scientific journals that say that there's a danger between solar panels and pacemakers, or that the solar panels melt and leak chemicals into the environment?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
No. And as far as, I've seen the studies on the panels, but that study that was assuming the panels leached into the system was assuming a landfill operation where they ground the panels up. These solar panels are intact, operating intact, and there's we have no reason to believe that they'll cause any health issues. The piers, the steel piers on a pier here are driven between 6 and 10 feet into the ground. It depends on the soil conditions. So we'll do geotech, and then the geotechnical drilling's results will dictate the length of the pier to match local building codes and local wind loading codes. So the length of and there's no concrete used. These are just driven into the ground. 30 years from now, if we want to remove it, they pull them out, and there's nothing else in there. And I think this here is a good example of how the site is restored for environmental conditions. You can see on the right here, after the soil is, after construction, the soil quickly reestablishes for environmental concern. Here's some of the characteristics. I think we've covered most of these. These are good investments for the community. They do add to the tax base. They do add to the tax base. We don't require additional service from the county. No schools, no roads, no impact to the county. There is, let me jump to the benefits of solar. These are construction projects, so during about the year for construction, 9 to 12 months for construction, there is approximately 200 full-time workers on site. At the peak of the construction, there's 200 workers. And those workers have to eat, stay, and live in the community. Over the life of a project, one of these will add approximately $7 million of tax revenue to the city's tax base. So they are a benefit to the community.
I think in a broader, larger context, one of my concerns is that federal regulations currently have shut down a lot of other energy source production. Right now, there's, I think, 3 natural gas lines that run into Florida, and Florida is 70% dependent on those 3 lines. And we've got to do better at diversifying. We cannot be that handicapped to such a limited supply, which is why I think Tallahassee is having new laws about use by right, that we are trying to encourage solar farms, because we've got to diversify our energy production, especially when we keep having different administrations that open up different sources and then close them down. We need to have some more things that are in our control. So I get all of your points to specific benefits, but overall, statewide, nationwide, we got to do a better job at being able to not be forced into one realm or another. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Farnsworth?
You said $7 million, it was a lifetime of the project, or how many years does that consist of?
We estimate the 30-year life of the project. 30 year.
And will these solar panels become obsolete? How are they disposed?
Oh, they're about 97% recyclable, and we'll follow all federal, state, and local recycling guidelines for the panels.
There won't be anything left on the property that'll be moved off
No.
property.
And like I said, there's no concrete use, so that's one of my, these are very simple construction. It's very easy to install, very easy to dismantle. There's no concrete involved, so the steel piers can be pulled out of the ground and all the steel can be recycled.
Question.
Mr. Coleman?
Are y'all, so you're not really a municipality, you sell to Florida Power and all that stuff, but you're a company, right?
Yes.
So that land out there won't be exempt, right?
They'll pay higher taxes.
Yeah,
They'll
they're
pay
gonna have to
commercial
pay taxes on that land.
That's his point, 7 million over what you would collect from ag.
Yeah, okay.
Renewable energy is subject to, by state law, I think it's Senate Bill 90, receive benefits was 80% tax abatement on the value of the solar equipment. The non-solar equipment is taxable, and that's usually about 20% of the project value is taxable at the local millage rate of 2.1, whatever the county, city's rate is. And that works out to, on average, about $200,000 to $400,000 a year over the life of the project, and then in the end, when the tax abatement goes away, it's taxed at the full value. And that averages about $7 million over the life of the project.
That's a whole lot more than what an ag exemption is going to bring in.
About $233,000 a year.
If it's 300, so it's more than that. So.
And I will say the last thing about the community benefit for the community. One of the concerns has always been the roads. We always leave the roads in as good or better conditions when we will work with the county, the road department, public works, document the condition of the roads before construction, make sure that they are at that condition or better when construction is completed. And we'll also continue to work any maintenance and traffic plans with the county on how we construct it. All of our projects are built with, are developed with environment and wildlife in mind. I do like the picture in the top left-hand corner. This was a big issue in one of our projects that we, through what we call wildlife-friendly fencing, you might call it hog fencing, you might call it farm fencing.
Red top.
Red top.
Red top?
Red top.
All right, let me go with red top. Red top fencing. We have seen wildlife. We have some indication of wildlife returning to the sites. With the 4 and 6 foot fencing, the wildlife has returned. Deer. And this one here, we actually we have a photo of a Florida panther on site. Something we're very proud of. The wildlife does come back. We are not pushing the wildlife away. Any questions?
Can we deer hunt it?
If I had open space,
you might heard a glass top.
We've tried that. An open space.
Yeah, it would work.
So, in some of the constituents' behalf, and I see a few here that have been before the board and have asked some serious questions into the partnership, and I know there's some rules and regs out there, and I forget the name of the case study.
Brett Harris. Brett.
Is that?
Bert.
Bert Harris. So, and once this stuff become before the board, y'all bought the land, we understand all these. Are y'all open or even ready to have a conversation of the perimeter berms? Are they near the homes? And I did talk to Mike today, and as an agriculture environment, you could plant plants now because you're not building your infrastructure as a solar farm. Are y'all open to that at all?
Yeah, I think we are open to working with the county, the city staff on coming up with responsible and reasonable buffering requirements for the homes. I think that is, I've heard the idea of building a dirt berm. I haven't considered, we haven't considered that yet. That's a lot of dirt to be brought in and something to evaluate. But yeah, I think we can come up with buffering the homes. I would like not to have to buffer a solar project from a pasture.
Around the thing. And I reckon the next one is, if you're planning now, we give a 5-year, 4-year jump on growing stuff instead of buying mature plants. You got 5 years to get it in what we got now and let it grow.
We are considering that.
Okay.
We have a tenant. We are considering that. It's an option. I'd love to come in with some juvenile growth and plant it now. We also have a tenant on site that we have a long-term tenant. We have with a local tenant on there, cattle. I don't know what cattle would do to
certain stuff. Right?
Certain stuff.
Right.
So it's something we are considering, yes.
Okay.
And to answer your question, yeah, we would continue to work with the county on responsible buffering.
With the city.
That's all right.
Sorry, Commissioner.
No, we're good.
City, sorry.
We're good.
And I will say,
but I appreciate that. Thank you.
When we asked staff to bring this ordinance back, our specific instructions based on what we were hearing from residents is we really don't want to look at this. We find it ugly. We don't want to see it. We just need to make sure that we have a big enough buffer and it's a vegetative buffer. That was how the conversation began. This commission responded, staff responded. Now it has taken us quite some time to get there, but in that interim, that's when the concerns have grown more to pacemakers and chemicals and those kinds of things. So, but in every conversation that we've had, you guys have been willing to have the vegetative buffer. Again, we are limited by state law at how we can treat a solar farm versus how we treat other ag. And I think that's worth continuing to repeat over and over and over again, because oftentimes the expectation is this board has the power to just say no to things. And I want the residents to hear that, we heard you immediately, that we want to look at that vegetative buffer. We started looking at it. We communicated with you guys that we were looking at a vegetative buffer. You guys never have once balked at a vegetative buffer. Tonight we talked about berms. Berms are a little bit different than vegetative buffer because now you are talking about bringing dirt in. There may be an opportunity as you're doing construction to use some of the dirt that you have to move around, although it doesn't really look like you have to move a whole lot of dirt around. But I think that the idea of being able to go in and do any planting ahead of time, that may have warrant, although I do also understand that you guys don't even really have a site plan right now, so you don't know where you're going in and out yet. So I think the challenge for us is how do we write an ordinance that doesn't force you to build an 8-foot berm and spend $300,000 on buffering between you and another cattle farm, right? An empty pasture, right? So how can we use some common sense of where do we put those efforts to make sure that the existing residents are there, don't have to look at it. And again, I'm not sure if we shared that study with the residents, but we've been presented many times that a 15-foot vegetative buffer, you really can't see very well through it. 20-foot vegetative buffer, you really can't see through it. So every foot after that is feel-good footage. It's not really preventing any more line of sight because you pretty much got that at 15. And I think what we've been thinking about is 15 around, 20 when you got a line of sight at a panel that's 6 foot tall. That should go a long way. So that's a challenge for Brian and his staff, how to figure out how to write an ordinance that has some flexibility for that kind of common sense. But that's what we're working on. And again, I've never heard any of your representatives object to that. And this board has spoken unanimously that we want to see that vegetative buffer. We have a little bit of different ideas about how wide it is and whether you plant it ahead of time or whether you just stop cutting it and let it go. I will tell you the cows won't mess up the vegetative buffer once it gets to a site, but hogs and goats, they will. They'll eat it all. So
sheep's okay, no goats.
Yeah, tell your tenant no goats. Let that vegetative buffer grow. Is that the end of your presentation?
That is mine, yes, thank you.
Commission have any more questions, comments? We don't normally take public comment on presentations, but we're going to do that tonight because I want to make sure that we have frequent and often. So if you're here to listen to the presentation, but there's something else, let's set the clock at 2 minutes on this because it was a presentation. But if you want to talk to the commission about anything that we were presented tonight that you disagree with or you think that we're missing or we're not hearing, you can step out of the way, sir, and let the queue line up behind you. Come on down, sir.
Hi, my name's Jeff Holcomb. I've spoken here before. Just want to thank Mr. Scoville and for coming to present. We do appreciate it. And I know he's said that a couple times this is much sooner than they would usually come and speak to us. And we have said we've got, several years ahead of us. Maybe we're talking about 4 or 5 years. But I do just want to say, I do think we're doing the responsible thing here with the community and the commission and Florida Renewal Partners, talking about starting the conversation early. Because I'm concerned folks saying we have plenty of time, and all of a sudden a couple of years has passed. But also, we have plenty of time, but in effect, we're also saying, but it's too late. They already purchased the property, and under this act, we can't change anything. So, we're kind of like, we're balancing these two things. I do want to officially say, though, for the record, I disagree, Mr. Mayor. All of the citizens are not talking about just aesthetics. It's not just that it's ugly. And there are health concerns, there's property value concerns. And I do want to say, if I could, I do have 2 peer-reviewed studies here. If you care to take a look at these, I've shared these in the past.
Will you give them to the clerk?
Sure.
And make copies for us?
Those are regarding electromagnetic fields generated from solar farms. I know there's a lot of research out there, but there are several citizens, several neighbors of mine, pacemakers, defibrillators, autoimmune disorders. They're worried about cancer. These are real concerns, and just saying we don't know anything about that, that's not a real excuse to say let's just ignore it, because we're the ones that have to live with this. So years down the road, if I hand my property over to my kids and the next generation, and 50 years later they've been living next to a solar farm, and the groundwater's contaminated, they're going to look back at us and say, why didn't we do more? So that's my time. But again, thank you for hearing us, and thank you for Florida Renewal Partners coming and speaking.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on down, man.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Darling, and Mayor Marlowe and Commissioners. I've listened to the presentation and everything, and in the past I've listened to the presentation. The property has already been purchased, as the gentleman before me has said. My question is, and I've been looking it up, because I go to Lake City and Live Oak and Jasper every week, and I pass a big solar farm on I-75 and I-10. It's between I-75 and I-10. What does a buffer look like? Because I can see the solar farms, and then there's one of my members, my church members, where she lives, her family, they can hear it during certain parts of the day or the week. So what does a buffer look like? That's my question.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll take all public comment, and then we'll come back to answer whatever we can't answer. Come on down, sir.
Thank you all. My name is Travis Edmond. Thank you guys for hearing us and having them come early and start this process. I, again, want to thank both of them for coming. They met with us earlier. Sorry. The main thing for myself, I am someone with a defibrillator, so I do have to constantly look at those kind of things and deal with where the property lines are and what the setback is for certain things. My main thing besides that is dealing with the vegetative buffer and when is it going to be, because if they wait till those panels are already there, like you said, I know you said we can't do anything for 4 years even if we put them in tomorrow. We still got to look at them for that whole time, and if we wait to put in that vegetative until it's already in, we didn't want to, but we started looking at property like to sell our place because we're like, I don't want to sit here and stare at solar panels. Part of the reason I moved out here, I have a cattle background. I love the open pasture. I hate that's going to be blocked by trees, but I'd rather see that than solar panels. So I know my time's starting to run low, but
you got time.
Just appreciate it.
Yeah.
Just mainly wanting to make sure that we don't do what happened previously, because I think last time we spoke about this, everyone had an agreement that I think 10 feet with a 8-foot chain link was definitely not appropriate for this in areas around homes, but it was put in prior. So I just want to make sure that we're all taking that in and thinking about what are we actually going to see down the road and making sure. I know they've been very nice and communicative with us, so I appreciate that. and they seem like they're gonna go forward with the vegetative buffer and all that, just make sure that we get it in for our other future projects. So, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Other comments? Come on down, sir.
Again, my name is Michael Wyrick, and I appreciate first Commissioner Clark for asking that question he did about the buffers. That is probably first and foremost our biggest issue is these folks, as you know, we lived out in the country for a reason. We wanted to see the countryside. We wanted to see our kids grow up in that kind of environment. And you know what? It's kind of being taken away from us. These gentlemen seem very nice. I'm not going to say anything against them. However, I'm not here to be friends with them. We have to deal with an issue that we have, and that is I have a 750-acre solar farm that's going in. And people throw that around, 750 acres. Oh, that's not that big. You know how big that is? That is 3 of the Disney parks plus SeaWorld. You could put Epcot, the Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and SeaWorld. And you know what? You got like a little bit of buffer there too, where you have a little extra. So it is a huge property. And I would like to make one comment about the Burt Harris Act. You guys caught me off guard last time. I didn't know anything about it. However, I will say that there is a case that was released last year. It is Brevard County versus Watersmark Development Enterprises. It is out of I believe the 5th DCA. We used to be part of the 5th DCA. We're now at the 1st DCA. However, one of the issues that it brought up was, what is an inordinate burden? They said that an inordinate burden is defined as an action restricted or limited the use of real property such that the property owner is permanently unable to attain the reasonable investment-backed expectation for the existing use of the real property. Put aside everything about being an existing use or they're grandfathered in. There's 750 acres here. Speaking with these gentlemen earlier tonight, it seems like you could put these things in a much smaller area than 750 acres. All we're asking is that whenever you're coming up with this plan to where you're going to build, is put it into give us the buffer that is at least necessary. And if all this property is available and they can use 400, 500 acres, it's 200 acres of a buffer that could go around it. And I know I went over, but they had 25 minutes and I had 2, so I'm going to do my best. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment? Come on down, sir. You were being so nice, waiting to get everybody else.
Right, absolutely. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Charlie Jackson. I'm a resident of right here in Newberry. I've traveled the world, went across the Atlantic and the Pacific several times and served this country. And let me tell you, I've traveled all across the United States, and I've been in multiple cities and multiple municipalities and seen a lot of things change. But let me tell you, I went through Hawthorne and Micanopy and Archer and all these other places, and I kept coming back to this one little location off of 170th. And let me tell you that we've been here now for about 21 years, and it has been just a great place to live. So I value being able to live in a community such as Newberry. It is the greatest place I've been, and I've been all across, like I say, Europe and Egypt and Japan and Korea and all across the United States, but you can't beat Newberry. So I want to first of all commend the Commission for the work that you all are doing and the time that you all are taking to do that detailed questioning, because it is now at this stage, in the conceptual stages, when all the answers really need to be put out so everybody know what you invested in and what you're dealing with. Because like the young man just said, Newberry is growing rapidly fast. The state of Florida is the fastest growing state right now, and we just got to be very, very smart when we start making those level decisions. So thank you all very much, and we really appreciate the work you all are putting in.
Thank you. You're welcome back anytime. We appreciate it. And we agree. Other public comment? Come on down, sir.
Good evening. Joshua Wyrick. First things first, you mentioned that concrete would not be installed for the solar project, and I have to disagree with that because I'm pretty sure you do need a concrete foundation when installing the converters that will be on site. So I don't understand how concrete would not, that to provide stability. So I don't understand how concrete would not be a part of this project. On top of that, I also don't understand how wildlife activity can be present on the scale that you presented when a 6-foot fence is present. So unless you have staff on hand that quite literally toss wildlife over this fence to allow for this activity that you said exists, and I don't believe it does, I don't see how it could. And
Re-say that, sir. The fence?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Say that again.
I don't understand how.
Pause this time.
Okay, yeah.
Because the commissioner's asking you a question.
I was not clear when you said, just say the fence thing over for me.
Yes, sir.
Because I think it was already addressed. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. You said that there would be a 6-foot fence surrounding this property, the solar project. Is that correct?
They would ask for the 4-foot red top. Some of theirs have a 6-foot fence. They're asking for the city to allow, in this project, to have a 4-foot red top fence so the wildlife can get in and out. That's what some of them have the barbed wire tops and stuff like that, but they're asking for something different here. Go ahead.
Let's let him finish his public comment, because we
ahead.
don't want to get into a back and forth too much.
Well, I also do want to apologize for these questions in advance because I am all about data. What is the estimated difference in property value to surrounding homes as a percentage? Has this been taken into consideration? And if so, what are your metrics in deciding on that number? In other words, what are the categories that you have investigated that have the most weight behind the provided statistic? And if the first question I have has been investigated, has an investigation been conducted where the vegetative buffer, in addition to the property bought and being constructed on, has it changed provided statistic in any positive, negative way?
This is public comment, so you read your questions in, and if we can address them, we will, but we don't go back and forth. It's your chance to talk to the commission.
But you can take its highest and best use.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't think a solar farm, personally, me being an appraiser, is going to affect it because you're using other homes for comparable sales. So, I'm not going to take a solar farm into it. I really probably shouldn't be answering that question, but I can't take the solar farm. I would lose my license if I took that solar farm and said, I'm going to adjust it by 15% or whatever. It's comparable sales in the area.
Did you have any more to your public comment, sir? Because I'll give you an extra 15 seconds because we got some back and forth there.
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Other public comment? Anyone else? Okay, I'm not sure that I'm going to try to answer all of them. I apologize if I misspoke. I thought I was clear when I said that the original concerns from the residents were aesthetic, and then over the time they grew, and I acknowledge that there were other concerns about electromagnetic fields and those kinds of things. So I've never tried to say that the residents are only concerned about the aesthetics. I said that's how it started, and it's grown, and I think the bulk of the comments here tonight were still about the aesthetics of looking at it. To your comment about what does a buffer look like, that's a great question, and this is never a popular comment, but I know that on my farm, when somebody builds something like a watermelon factory, not a watermelon factory, but a watermelon watermelon shed, and I don't want to look at it, I can block that with planting 1 or 2 cedar trees, asking that person 20 acres away to be responsible for the whole blocking means that they've got to plant something all along the line. So I think when we're trying to be good neighbors, if you know you got 5 years coming, a lot of times you can address, say, hey, I got trees here and I got trees there, and I don't want to see you over there. I'm going to go in and plant something closer to me. That mitigates that visual effect, and it still can require the buffer from the solar company. And again, I want to reiterate for what feels like the 100th time, there's not one commissioner up here who has not already agreed, and not even yet an applicant who has not agreed to a wider buffer, a vegetative buffer. So I appreciate all the residents saying we want to make sure we get it in. I want to get it in writing as well, but I can't repeat it more than I am. Every time we talk about this, I say it 3, 4, 5 times. We're going to put it in the ordinance that there's going to be a wider buffer. It's going to be vegetative. That's going to be in writing. Where I think we have diverged is when people have said, well, we want a 10-acre buffer around, 800 field. That, now I get into that law about am I significantly cutting into someone's ability to have a return on their investment? And again, a lot of this conversation that we're having has now been preempted at the state level. The state passed a law that says that in ag, solar farms have use by right. So even if Newberry did not have a solar ordinance, the state has now said solar farms can go in agriculture areas use by right. So at this point, the city and the state kind of align. So again, my focus is 100% on how do we get the best possible compromise here. And if 20-foot vegetative buffer, if they're willing to do some berms, which I know they haven't agreed to yet, but they're willing to have that conversation, those kinds of things address that aesthetic. To the rest of it, I think we just have to kind of keep working on it. I appreciate sharing these studies. I haven't found a peer review study, so I appreciate you bringing this in, and we'll continue. They still have to do all their environmental work. We got a year to have those kinds of conversations. To the concrete question, I didn't hear the applicant say that there would be no concrete. I think there was a comparison between how much concrete, if this was 750 houses versus a slab of concrete where I had the converter, and then the rest of it is permeable ground. So I think that was a miscommunication. They didn't say there would be no concrete. They said that there's going to be a whole lot less concrete here than there would be if they built a subdivision. You're welcome to come back up, sir, and clarify that point. To the wildlife, if you've ever seen a deer jump, they can clear a 10-foot fence. 12. 12. Birds fly over, and everything else goes under the fence, right? So rabbits, tortoises, right, they're going to go under. Go ahead, sir.
Typically, we do not use concrete in the construction of in the solar project. The inverter pads do not have concrete. They have a little deeper. The piers are a little deeper, but there's no concrete. The only part we have concrete is at the substation. I forget the dimension. 300 by 400 foot concrete pad. But that's the only place we use concrete is the substation.
Versus a neighborhood, which is pretty much all concrete except for the yard, right? The roads are concrete, the driveways, the rooftops are all impervious. So the foundation, if I were to go in and build on 750 acres, 1,500 houses, right? I would be converting all of that impervious substance into impervious.
And on the furthermore, when we finish our stormwater design for a project, we are typically somewhere around 97-98% pervious. So we only have 2 or 3% impervious impacts to our 700-acre site.
Could you speak? I can't remember which resident said it, but it does seem like there may be an opportunity to think about what Commissioner Clark was talking about the future of the technology, and maybe start in the less densely populated area and kind of grow out from there. I know that we'll get to that when we get into site plan and all those kind of things. But can we keep that thought in our mind of?
Yeah, I mean, we will.
If that's possible.
Yeah, typically we will start from wherever our point of interconnect is in the transmission system and work out from there. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell the design, we want to keep as far off of the residential homes as we can. So yes, that will be in our design consideration. One more point of clarification: we have in the past implemented the red top fence. We will when we next to a residential or a private neighborhood, we'll use 4-foot. Public right-of-ways, we typically use 6-foot fencing along the public right-of-ways, but then 4-foot amongst private landowners.
Okay. All right. The commission here, anything in public comment or from the presentation that you'd like to?
You got another one, Mr. Mayor.
Come on down, man. We're being a little informal tonight since it's been a long time to get the conversation started. Figure it out.
My name is Ann Coyne. Thank you for listening.
Can you say that one more time?
My name is Ann Coyne. I'm a resident that lives near where the solar farm is proposed. My question regards storms. When severe storms pass our area, since concrete is not being used, as far as debris, that is a very big concern on my part. And also the road system surrounding this particular area is very poor, and there would be several years of actual increased use on these roads to get the solar farm going. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, any last calls before we move on? And to the concern about the storms, these are all built with state and federal regulations, right? Just like your house is built to withstand certain, these would be the same thing. Okay? Okay, that was the presentation. We don't have any decisions to make, so if there are no more comments, we'll move on to item 15, which is Champions Park Operations Renewal. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. Hope you drive home safe. Mr. Parker, take it away.
Some coffee.
Good evening again. Just one moment. All right, so as we wait the screens, I am here to discuss the Champions Park renewal contract with a recommended action to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Rad Sports for the continued management and operations of Champions Park with no alterations, amendments, or modifications to the original contract. Some background. I wanted to start the presentation to kind of get into, some of you all were here, some of you were not. So in 2010, we had an initial agreement with the county to construct and build Champions Park. We had a first amendment in 2011, a second amendment in 2015, and a third amendment in 2017. Those addressed items, whether it was financing of the park or improvements that were made. And the most important portion of that slide is to go over the expiration of September 30th, 2025. So the Third Amendment identified that as the date that our agreement with our interlocal with the county would expire. The current contract, just for a background, we entered into this contract November 2018. The highlights were a 5-year term. We get 5% of the tournament revenue the operator provides us, and then 20% of non-tournament revenue. That would be items such as teams practicing, et cetera. Their minimum yearly payment is $25,000. They have a monthly reporting requirement, and their minimum of 12 multi-day tournaments consisting of 40 teams. Since the beginning of this contract, we have received a minimum yearly payment of $25,000, but that is the payment. The agreement that we're seeking is a 5-year term that would be broken down by 2 years. It's essentially a 2-year contract with 3 one-year additions. The reason for that is at the end of the agreement with the county, we'd like to possibly go back and review the park, see if there is something else that we'd like to do. Not what I'm here tonight to talk about, the future of Champions Park as far as what do we want to do. But by doing a 2-year contract renewal, that allows us at that expiration date with the county to then see what's the best future for Champions Park. Again, there would be no changes to the current contract, so the 5% and the 20% would remain. The 25% or $25,000 minimum payment would still be in effect. As a reminder, that $25,000 goes into an earmarked account that then goes back into the park. So any dollar that is provided through their minimum payment gets put into items such as turf. We did that this past year, or fencing, items that are in disrepair. The operator has a responsibility to report to us, and the list there are the items, and generally remains to be what tournaments they have, number of heads and beds. Some of those things we then report to the county per our interlocal, and then some of it is for us, such as maintenance logs and stuff like that. I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of show you kind of what we receive. And these are 2 forms that we get per
per the tournament, we would get a form that tells us the amount of impact that we have at the park, number of teams, number of out-of-county, and then also the totals that they make for concessions and field rental. Majority of income from Champions Park would come from field rentals and concessions. And as the operator hosts tournaments, let's just use PGF as an example. They come in, they receive the gate fee, and then the tournament fee. So whatever the entry fee is, that's money that they take. They pay the operator, and this is pretty consistent across the board. They pay the operator a per game fee. So to come participate at our park, it costs $40 per game to play. And that is pretty consistent across the board. I mean, some are a little cheaper depending on the county and the sports commission. If some counties say, well, we'll charge you hardly anything to come to our park because we're more concerned about the number of heads and beds that you get. So if you bring X amount of participants and we expect X amount of revenue and hotel nights, then we're going to charge you less per game.
And Travis, don't remember this at the last banquet, but Champions Park has been the second largest driver of heads and beds for Alachua County for the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years. First is UF. I don't think anyone's going to be UF. So we are talking about a significant impact at the county level anyway. I just want to.
Yeah, so
that was still true last year, was it?
It was. Champions Park fills a lot of space for hoteliers that isn't generally filled up. So in the months that Champions Park are operating, those are big months for the hotels because generally it's UF and sporting events, and then there's Champions Park and any other events that maybe the Sports Commission brings in, larger events. I mean, with the new event center, there's going to be some larger events that come in. But Champions Park is filling that void when times are kind of slow. And like speaking to hoteliers through the Sports Commission, I hear it a lot. Whenever they don't have generally large numbers, Champions Park helps kind of fill that void. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you one example of an event that is really large, and I think that it's important for those hoteliers to have those events because, again, UF home games, those are full. But outside of that, it can get tough. I mean, you're hoping that you have, folks traveling through that fill those hotels. Some more reporting examples. You'll see a monthly summary, and that is just for October 2023. I just grabbed one. But it kind of lays out, what's happened for that month and where the revenues come in. And then that's a maintenance log. We report to the county quarterly and also semi-annually. This is an example of the semi-annual report. This report details the event, the number of room nights, and then total spending. The formulas at the top identify what multipliers are used and provides data on how much is being received back in the bed tax, et cetera. And those numbers are generally used through the Sports Commission and through the TDC. For 2024, they're already scheduled for 18 events from January to June. They have 7 total open weekends in 6 months. 15 of those events already meet the 12 requirements for the year. So they have a full schedule. And the fall schedule is based, again, on the football schedule. Once that schedule comes out, then hosts, say PGF or any of those organizations, then look to see where can they fit in. Because if they can't have room nights, they're not going to host an event. They must have the availability.
People still going to the Gator games?
Yes, sir, they are.
That will never change.
Yes, sir, they are. So as an example of this tournament, one of the larger ones, year 1 was 84 teams, year 2 was 106, and then year 3 was 152. Those numbers are skyrocketing, and partly because the events are getting stronger too. I mean, you have this PGF Show Me the Money event where, the championship is being hosted at UF, and
there's a lot there for, I mean, it's generally a showcase, so I mean, you have all the college coaches there. I mean, it's a premier event. And this is the kind of event that I believe that the park wants to draw as much as possible. Again, a lot of that involves how many hotel rooms they can get, and squeezing it into the right place. So again, recommended action is to authorize the agreement to extend 2 years with an additional 3 if we so choose. Again, with the idea that it gives us, the opportunity in 2 years once we conclude the interlocal to kind of relook it over.
Okay, 20,000 foot level, we got 2 more years, that's got to stay a park, right? Do we stay for 2 years? Commissioner Farnsworth and then Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with extending the contract. How much is the maintenance per year on the park, though?
I'm sorry?
I think that, let me revise that question. How much should the maintenance be to make it look better than what it looks?
You're still on my thunder.
Sorry.
I mean, 25,000 minimum payment doesn't get you anywhere near.
100,000 a year?
I'd say a little more than that. I mean, you're talking capital, which is one thing. We're talking fences, turf. As an example, we replaced the batting circles and the pitching mounts, which would just be a rectangular surface there. And that, for all 16 fields, that was roughly $90,000. That's not talking about the entire turf, again, fencing, the infrastructure, irrigation, all that kind of stuff. And that also doesn't include your operating costs that are associated with operating 16 fields and all those conditions we just spoke of.
Is that your only question, Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, I mean, is it generating enough revenue to cover that?
No, sir, I would say that I don't believe that the park itself can generate enough revenue to maintain it at a level that it should be maintained. Again, I've done a lot of research on where does the money go, and majority of it goes to the outside event host that comes in, charges a per team fee, charges a gate fee. They recoup some of that funding because they then have to pay officials, and officials are out of this world expensive right now. However, they receive money from your local sports commissions. In our case, would be Gainesville Sports Commission. So this vendor, say PGF, let's use them as an example, PGF, Premier, Fast Pitch, let's use them. They would come in, they would seek reimbursement from the Gainesville Sports Commission for money that they spent based off the number of heads and beds that they bring. So they'll receive some money back for helping with officials. They may receive rebates from the Sports Commission because they brought in X amount of heads and beds. So that's all money that's not going to the park.
Who is that that receives RAD receives that?
No, the operator. So PGF, let's just say they're the ones that come in. They're the ones that they're hosting the event. RAD is just the vessel for the event to take place. They're the ones that have the facility, and they charge a per game fee. Their fee is, say, $40. I think that's what it is. The problem with increasing that fee to a number that would make things better is then your hosts are going to say, well, I'm not going to go there. I can go to, say, Lake City or another one of these locations where the county is helping to offset that cost for me because they don't care if I come in and they don't want to receive $40 a game. They want to receive the heads and beds. That's what's important to them. So there's a trade-off there. If we're willing to, and I say we, if Champions Park says, hey, we're going to charge you $70 a game, they're not going to come, and they're not going to meet the minimum requirements. So, I mean, it's a domino effect, and there isn't enough money to be made based off these events that I'm presenting up here to operate the park at a level that it should be maintained.
And why are we doing it?
We're in a contract.
We have an interlocal.
2 more years.
2 years.
2 more years.
After 2
But
years.
again, all of that we're talking about tonight is to extend this
Contract.
2 years. To
Right, I'm
get out
okay
of
with that. I was just kind of
interlocal.
curious as.
Right. And then we'll have the conversation about what happens once we're out of that interlocal. Is that it? Do it for you, Commissioner?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
So I know that, Mr. Mayor, that this is on the RAD side, but I was approached the other night about this park. So if RAD's going to continue, they're the ones that stepped up to the plate standing right in here that wanted this thing so bad that the big blow-up in Newberry was all the bidding that went on, and they got it. So now that they got it, guess what? The big boys got to do big boy stuff. I got a complaint the other night about the rotten post down, whether it's a city or RAD or whoever. The park needs to get maintained, and I don't know where we go as a commission of getting money, and you, Travis, as a director, but the park is absolutely falling into shambles. And I know there's a project for a water main in a year, but I got bombarded the other night in the public about how bad that park is. So if it falls on the county, city, or RAD, all these things, something needs to come together, and let's try to fix that place.
Falls on us.
Can I respond?
Absolutely.
So I believe that all three of those have merit. We don't contribute any funding to Champions Park. I would say that is inconsistent as a city. That's inconsistent with a lot of other facilities like this. Majority of them do have funding, but a majority of them are owned by the county. So they are putting money back in. So Alachua County, as a benefactor of these heads and beds I speak of, that funding, some of that funding should be allocated to this park. However, Alachua County sees that Wild Spaces funding, which we all receive, should go to, like some of our Wild Spaces, could go to Champions Park. And that is true. We do have Wild Spaces funding, although we have allocated it to other projects. Majority of the benefit to Champions Park is not to your residents of Newberry. It's to the folks that are coming in out of town, using the park and leaving. So majority of the money that should be received should come from the county to help facilitate that. I think there's a ton of avenues. We're trying really hard to find what's the best one to get the funding we need to get that park where it needs to be. I will say, as a director and as a representative of the city, it is embarrassing for me as well to see the condition of the park. However, we have to decide, do we want to put funding towards the park? How much harder we can fight to get funding from the county. It's been very, very difficult. And then the operator is a very difficult task because I know that when I negotiated during that brief period between when we put this out to bid and when we held our own tournaments, I negotiated a lot with them. And it was tough, and I didn't always agree, and I didn't want to say yes to some of the prices we negotiated, but I had to, because I feel like if you don't, it's just going to sit vacant. So,
and I should clarify, when I say that it falls on us, what I mean by that is that there is absolutely no legal way to compel the county to put more money or any other entity. The county put up the original $7 million. We have a contract with them. That's set in stone. We have a contract with the operator that we could go back and negotiate, but this is our third operator, and all three operators have struggled to pay the 25, right? They've all three come to us and said, we can't pay the 25, and all three of them have struggled to maintain the current state of the park is not an overnight thing, right? That's something that has been happening for a long period of time. So just want to clarify that. Commissioner Coleman?
All right. No Wild Spaces money needs to go there. We got 2 years, and then we get rid of this boondoggle. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, these guys that put this together, they're no longer here. They were either voted out or they were sent packing. And we need, This don't do nothing but help Alachua County and whoever that outside guy is bringing in these tournaments. I don't, if I have anything to do with it, I don't want one red cent going out there. Let that thing just, I hope a sinkhole falls in and the whole thing goes in it.
I think that will be the conversation that we have at the end of this 2-year contract.
Exactly.
Well,
That'll-
and I think we need to start, because part of the frustration here is that we have not had that conversation and given direction to staff. And so into that vacuum, we have this conversation. Well, we got to go for 2 more years. It has to be a park, but do we put money into it, or do we just tell people it is what it is? I do believe that if this commission says at the end of this interlocal agreement, we don't have any desire to continue, I think that would light a fire under the other entities, because again, Champions Park is the second largest driver of heads and beds. This business model
For Gainesville.
for Alachua County, right? This business model was never designed for a private business to run it at a profit margin. It's always designed to be subsidized by counties, right? And again, that we were seduced by this idea that, Newberry was going to be sports service. People would come in, spend money, and leave. That just never really has come to fruition. The park is doing exactly what it was intended to do now under our third operator, and it still isn't doing what it was promised to do in terms of the hotels and all those kinds of things. It could play a part in it, right? But the other things haven't materialized. So I think there's the rub. We got 2 years, but I would love for this board, let's maybe have a workshop where we focus on that, because again, tonight is just a simple question, right? But we do need to give Travis and Mike and the county a signal about what our expectation is, because right now, every time we go and meet with any of these boards, that's the response. Well, Newberry's not putting in any money. County put in all the money ahead of time, the bed tax, right, paid for it. So where's Newberry's part in it? And our response is always your response. Well, the county right now is getting all the benefit. We see some gas, Bellagio's does well, right? But we're not seeing the benefit from it, so we're at loggerheads. And I've heard Commissioner Clark say twice tonight, the answer is the county needs to pay. Well, after 12 years, I'm just telling you, trying to get the county to be a partner on these kinds of things, you get it every once in a while, and then after they do it that one, and their response is going to be, we did partner with you. We gave you $7 million to build it, right? And that's not an insincere response, but in order to maintain it, I think we need $150,000, $200,000 a year, and the park's not going to generate that. So the hotels have to step up, the county tourism department has to step up, and I think really the only way to get them to step up is for this board to say, we don't have $200,000 a year, so when our contract is up, we're going to give it back to the original property owner. They may bulldoze it and start over. That may instigate some more conversations, because we've had all these conversations.
Right.
For years we've been having these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's been said here tonight that hasn't been said before, right?
Yep.
Commissioner Martin?
What is our commitment over the next 2 years?
Our commitment is to provide the minimum amount of tournaments with the minimum number of participants, which there's no issue meeting those requirements. And
That's our requirement to the county,
That
and
is.
we hire Rad Sports to satisfy.
Correct.
What's the financial penalty if we do not?
They take it back.
$7 million.
Nah.
I don't know the answer off the top of my
Here's my line of thinking. If we didn't renew the contract with Rad Sports, nobody's going out there to operate it, right? And then the county's not going to get that bed tax because nobody's out there operating it. I'd almost be in favor of tabling this item, because we have expiration for the end of December, right? And if we can have the conversation potentially with that in the backdrop of not renewing with the county to actually find out what our expense could potentially be, and whether or not that speeds up their desire to have that conversation.
I did
immediate consequences.
I'd be happy to look at your,
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
What would our exposure be to
Yeah, because if we don't renew, nobody's going to be operating that thing, and they're not going to get any heads in beds.
I will say that in a lot of discussions, the number is large on the surface for Champions Park.
If we wanted to fix it out right now, $2 million?
$2 million
to
probably
get
would be the
back.
number. Yeah.
Which is a huge number for us. It's a drop in the bucket for the county for the bed tax, those kind of things. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did I cut you off or did I cut you off? Who did I cut off?
I was just going to say that when having the conversation about wild spaces money, the county has also, like us, have earmarked their funds as well. So well into the future. And I think that is going to potentially be difficult for us to overcome because much like in our situation, we've earmarked it for projects.
The bed tax, it ain't wild spaces money.
No, I mean,
They're not
those are multiple sources. So, I mean, for funding, could be wild spaces tax, could be funding from the bed tax.
I mean, the hotels, they're going to say they pay the bed tax, but they also have their own consortium. They could be a partner as well. They're the ones that are truly benefiting from this. They're the ones that show up and advocate on our behalf to the county and say, yeah, we paid the bed tax, we collect it. We want you to put it back into Champions Park. So we have a lot of allies here, but the problem is they've already allocated the money. We can't get past we put up the $7 million ahead of time. What did you guys put up, right? How much are y'all paying? And these days our conversations with the county are not on the best relationship, obviously, especially when there's financial considerations. So that makes it difficult for our staff for no fault of their own. I think those are purely political issues, right, that we have to work through with our counterparts.
Let's just get through the 2 years and then we can go from there, and that gives us time to do what we got to do.
I mean, I think that Commissioner Martin's question has merit, and since we do have some time, I would like to know the answer to that question. What's the penalty if we force the issue right now, right?
I mean, I could sit here, Mr. Mayor, and say that I'm not in favor of any money going to the county anymore because of Springs County, but I wouldn't say something like that.
I mean, if we hand the key, Dallas, you got to answer.
Mr. Mayor, according to the original interlocal, which all of our amendments fall back to, should we default on the contract, the county will require that the city transfer Nations Park and all property described herein to the county.
Is that the only penalty? There's no payback for the construction costs? You just take the park back over?
So originally, we would have had to pay the remaining portion of the bond.
I thought
but the bond has been paid off.
Because we had this conversation before.
Now, that is my cursory reading of this 275-page document. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Sounds like it's a table.
I mean, all kidding aside, if it helps bring the conversation to a head, I would prefer to have a professional conversation with them about it and not just, blindside them. They're obviously not going to be expecting us to just walk away from this thing tonight. So I think from a leadership standpoint and from a professional standpoint, if we just table it and go back to the county and say, look, this actually came up, I'm sure you're not aware about it, but we're kind of under the gun, and what can we potentially do between now and the end of December?
I mean, Rad Kids also has the contract on the county
Convention Center
facility.
The county has a contract with Viking, and Viking has a contract with Rad.
Right.
Yeah, if we can, and if we can table this until the next conversation, see if we can't get somebody at the county to have a conversation back.
I think it's a good idea. I do not look forward to 2 years of fielding complaints about the state of that park.
Yeah.
And I don't look forward to going to our residents and saying that, hey, if you don't want this park to look that way, we need to increase some tax somewhere. to fund it, right? I don't like any of those options.
On the Robert's Rules of Order, I think I am in the correct spot, and maybe I'll wait for a Scott.
Making a motion to table.
Make a motion to table. It needs a second and a 2/3 vote to pass and move it to the next,
I think you got it.
next,
So I have a motion
meeting.
to table. Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor to table? Come on down, sir. You got a legal mind.
Bring it. Okay, so I didn't come here to talk about this, but Champions Park, I think it ideally could be a money generator, but you're giving all your money to Gainesville. So Commissioner Farnsworth suggested and actually rejected a vote earlier he did not want to build a bunch of residences on Newberry Road because he wanted some more commercial. Well, guess what? A Hampton Inn or something with 100 beds right there. If you guys can find somebody to build one of those, you aren't sharing that money with Gainesville anymore, and they're coming here and staying with you, and then you can have the Publix right there and all kinds of other ways to generate money. But there's your bed tax. Is there a city tax that you could add to it? I mean, when I'm going to Orlando and traveling, they're always finding different ways to get some cash.
I mean, to answer your question, there's actually a hotel already approved for that site. There's a whole development approved for that site. Part of the frustration is that's always been there, and we just can't get it to move forward, right?
Okay.
So when it was first, and I think I might have been the only commissioner that was up here, well, Commissioner Farnsworth heard the first pitch to it. We voted on this, I think, the very first meeting. From the very start, this was going to bring hotels, restaurants, all kind of stuff. We're actually closer to that fruition of that, and this could actually then start helping. Because if this park, if the people that came to it were staying in Newberry, I believe that we'd be having a different conversation up here. But for 12 years,
Right.
they stay on Archer, at the Archer intersection. They come through Archer. They don't even come into Newberry for the most part.
Yeah.
Everybody that goes there loves it. We get rave reviews. We're ESPN, all kinds of stuff. This is not a knock on the operators. The operators have done the best that they can. Again, the model here was always to be subsidized by a county, and our county took the position that we did subsidize it. We paid for the construction. Now it's your turn, Newberry, because it's in Newberry. We should have always left this with the county, let the county manage it. Then they would have just folded it into their yearly operations, right? Instead of us doing it. So, well, we got public comment.
That's it.
So,
It was-
any other public comment?
It used to be a great facility. It obviously is going into disrepair, but when my kids were playing there, it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you.
Any other public comment on the motion on the floor, which is to table? Seeing none, come back. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Travis. I think you're still up.
I'm still up.
16, construction manager continuing services pool. Tell us all about it.
So the recommended action is to authorize the city manager, I'm sorry, this is long, to piggyback on the University of Florida's continuing services contract, entering into agreements with selected vendors to establish a dedicated pool of CM resources for the city of Newberry. This is going to be very similar to what you heard from Manager New last meeting, where we did this with an architecture pool. This is very similar to that. So University of Florida developed a pool for general contractors in a way for them to expedite their construction. They did in 2019 with 3 one-year renewals. They identified 15 contractors. I looked at the contractor list, and I would say all but maybe one of our respondents for our City Hall project are on this list as qualified vendors. And I think that helped me to see that this is probably well vetted, because I also looked at all those contractors as well. They develop a predetermined CM fee. That's based on project size and a percentage. So the larger the project, the less percentage that the CM makes. Smaller project, a larger percentage. Common practice across the board. And again, something consistent with what we saw with the City Hall project.
Move to authorize the city manager.
You don't want to hear the rest of the presentation?
I developed such a nice presentation. I'm not going to explain how the piggybacking process works. Again, the recommended action. And this is just going to allow us to expedite the process.
Okay, I heard a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Commissioner Martin?
Does this still allow us the flexibility to use somebody else should the
Yes,
need
sir.
arise, generically speaking?
Yes, sir. This allows us, we could always go to bid for a project, but this allows us to, on a project, to, instead of going to bid, where we can go through this list and find the vendor that best, meets our needs.
Other questions? Commissioner Martin, is that your only one?
I'm kind of thinking ahead. Would we potentially still see some authorization from here about, hey, this is the project, this is the vendor we're looking at? Yes, no kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So for the architecture one that we just did, I will be bringing that to you guys for the Easton Gymnasium addition. So you guys will see that again, us authorizing that contract with whoever the vendor might be. So if we were to enter into a contract, I'm going to use Ulrich as an example for, say, our Veterans Memorial Park. You guys would then see that again.
And is the commission voting on which of the managers, our staff is saying, well, we think Ulrich is best for this one?
That's what we would be bringing to you.
Butterfly one?
We
Monarch?
Mr. Mayor, tonight we're asking for you to approve the pool. So you have a pool to select from, and then staff would go to that pool and say, give us the best price, work with us. Once we've negotiated that, we would bring that task authorization back to the board for final approval.
Okay.
It works very similar to our engineering pool, where we have 20-some-odd engineers selected, but before we sign a contract, task authorization will bring it to
So we still get sort
you.
of a competitive bid out of an existing pool, because you said
Correct.
5 of them, give me a bid, and they would give you a
But
price.
we just, on this one, the prices are locked in the contract, so all of them are going to give us the best price. It would be who would give us the best service. But at any rate, it still comes back to the commission before we spend any money.
Okay. That answer your question, Commissioner? Other questions?
You'll see them again.
Okay, I had a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. That was this agenda item, right? It's getting late. And any other questions?
No, with all due respect, what I want to shield staff or city manager from being accused of, oh, they only use this one vendor. So if that comes to before the board and we authorize, that's fine with that vendor, move forward. That's on us, not
What I would
not them.
anticipate happening is let's just say I have a project, I would then reach out to ACM and see if they're interested in the project, what's your timeline, et cetera. I would then bring that back to you guys authorizing a contract. At that point, you could say, hey, we'd like you to look at other vendors, or hey, we're not comfortable with this one, whatever that may be, to get us there. So
the option's always there to
And even within the pool, right? You could go outside of the pool or inside the pool, right? Which I think is an important point for the residents to continue to hear, that there is still the opportunity to make sure that we're getting the best price, and while also being able to cut out some time and ask about who's able to do the best service here as well.
I think sometimes the benefit of the pool is that you have the ability to lock in a price, in advance.
With that, the pool.
Is your microphone on, Commissioner Coleman?
Oh, sorry. With that, the pool, is the lowest because that Florida UF has already done their bidding. Is that correct? That's how that's set?
They have solicited this competitively, and basically the pool is saying, hey, A, are you qualified? And then here is the numbers. Are you in agreement with these numbers? And if they say yes, then, they're part of that pool. And I think that's the important part is, they see these percentages and they agree to those percentages. So, and there isn't anybody out there that wants to overspend.
Well,
You
we
have
got another
included.
person we just approved last week or 2 weeks ago that looks at them again, the forensic auditor. So we got tons of
eyes.
people to keep an eye on each other.
It's the way it's supposed to work, right? Any other questions from the commission on the motion on the floor? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you, Travis. I think you're off the hook tonight. Item 17 is the Alachua County Public School Rezoning Initiative. Dallas, why don't you give us the introduction and then we'll...
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. I found out I was presenting this item several hours ago, so please be gentle on me. The recommended action tonight is to discuss the rezoning, and if you wish to direct staff to transmit a letter underneath the mayor's signature with recommendations to the school board regarding school rezoning to include adjustments to the proposed boundaries to more closely reflect the city's corporate boundaries, and a recommendation to the school board that they implement impact fees as a funding mechanism for new school capacity. The manager has taken a crayon to some maps. These are the existing elementary school zone. These are the proposed elementary school zones. The color is the proposed, the black line is the existing. Manager New recommends, should the commission desire, that we transmit a letter requesting that the school board adopt zones that follow that red line. His goal was to get the boundaries of the schools, again, to more closely map to our existing city limits. He also brought in the district a little bit to get rid of some of the Jonesville area kids. On the middle school, followed a similar thought process, brought it in closer to the city of Newberry, away from Jonesville, but increased it on the north side to capture the northern part of Newberry out of the High Springs area. And then on the high school, the same thought process. Part of the thought being that Newberry does have all three schools. Archer only has an elementary school, so we have to capture Archer in our school districts no matter what. And with that, again, the recommended action is that the commission direct staff to transmit a letter requesting that the school board adjust their boundaries more closely to our boundaries, and that they implement impact fees. It should be noted that the city of Newberry officially has not provided any input to the school board on the rezoning process.
And that's kind of how this agenda item came up. The manager and I have talked. I think I've been to the majority of the workshops around the county, and my message at everyone has been the same. Our schools are overcrowded, but our community wants to stay together. So we would encourage the school board to take Jonesville, which I know they have a 32669 zip code, and I know their address is Newberry, but they are not within the municipal boundaries of Newberry. And I believe, although we're still struggling to get this data back from the school board, I believe that takes off about 20% of the populations out of our three schools. If you were just, I'm talking a scalpel, you don't even have to come a half a mile, right? Where Brookside is the edge of the county's urban service area, just like we have an urban service area. So if you just take the urban service area and you send them, which is a 5-minute drive to Alachua, which is sitting with 20% capacity, right? That takes 20%. Now, that 20% that I'm quoting comes from a 2016 study. So we need to update that study. But so far, every time we have these workshops and every time I give that message, I'm assured by school board members and the superintendent that they are going to address it. And then we go to the next workshop and they present pretty much the exact same maps. So the school board is going to vote on this on January 15th. I'm being told that it's probably going to be tabled and pushed because there's still not as much uniformity among the board as they're looking for. But I do believe that this is a good message for this board to officially say, yes, that's what we're asking. Please don't divide our community and send some of our kids to different cities. Newberry should stay in Newberry. And my position has always been that Newberry residents' children have first dibs on Newberry seats. And right now we're getting kids from Gainesville. We're getting kids from all over, right? Our 2016 numbers, which you guys have heard me say over and over and over again, Newberry Elementary School is only 60% Newberry kids, right? Newberry High School is only 40% Newberry kids. So the overcrowding issues that we have in our schools are not from our growth, which I've heard the superintendent, I've heard the chair, the ex-chair, all publicly say, look at Newberry's growing, that's why your schools are crowded. That is emphatically not statistically the case, right? Our schools are overcrowded, but it's because the school board is busing kids from Jonesville, Gainesville, Archer, which I agree with Dallas. Archer has an elementary school, they don't have a middle or high. Archer and Newberry go way back. I think we're willing to struggle, right? But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to solve this issue is more classrooms, more space. So basically all we're asking is this board take an official stance to say, please don't divide our community.
Is this a head nod?
I think I would prefer it as a motion, just for the formality of being able to say our board voted on this.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Mazon. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the board? Comments or questions from the public on the motion on the floor? You want to have a comment?
All right.
No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to legal services. I want to apologize to Scott and Mr. Folds. We've had to bump this item. You're so kind.
I got you.
I don't know, the last 3 or 4 meetings, because we just haven't had a full board here. And basically, just as a reminder, this issue came up 2 years ago. The commission said, now's not a good time. I can't remember what we were in the middle of, right? We said, now's not a good time. Bring it back. So it's been 2 years. We're bringing it back. I want to reiterate, because I've done a bad job about this. When we have this conversation, I don't see this as a conversation about anyone's job performance. To me, this is a conversation about what's the responsibility of the board to bid out services every so often. For everyone else, we generally end up somewhere between 5 and 12 years, right? There is nothing that stipulates we bid out our legal services on anything like a regular basis, but we've never bid them out. So that's really in my mind, that's the topic of conversation. I know the last time that we had a board, it kind of got into, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I agree with that. We had a lot of questions about, well, is anybody unhappy? Again, I'm not asking anybody here, if there's something that we're not happy with, we can certainly work that out. That's not the issue. The issue is, does this board ever have the opportunity or the responsibility to bid it out? That's the question. You guys can say no. That's perfectly fine. Y'all asked me to bring it back. That's what I'm doing. So anybody have any thoughts? Commissioner Coleman?
No.
Okay. Anybody have any other thoughts?
No.
Farnsworth. All right.
What is the no?
I
Don't want to build it out.
Anybody have a thought that they want to bid it out? Mr. Carter?
I'll say this, I had there again, I do my due diligence. I checked with some staff. I've talked to different people. I've talked to Scott personally, and I absolutely want to be clear on that, and I will say that some things that have happened that I wasn't happy with. One was a representation of Scott's that got in here and kind of had a little argument about things. Well, as Scott and I talked, he absolutely said that when things go wrong, either one of us or all of us, we call him. He is the boss, and he'll square that away. So I appreciate that, Scott. And I will say that we've got more than one, and if there is one, it needs to be brought to Scott's attention. So whoever's yes or no, I'm just saying I've already had a conversation with Scott about this, and things he don't know he can't fix. So
Mr. Folds may dispute who's the real boss.
Let's say the boss is.
I need a raise.
So,
but anyway,
not to hold. I just need to hold your feet to the fire. Do you want to have a conversation with the board about bidding it out, or was that saying I don't want to have a conversation, just keep on going?
That conversation was for anybody that has not done their due diligence and asked staff or Scott himself. I'll have this conversation. I don't feel at this point that we need to do it, but I'm willing to have the conversation. if I can be persuaded, then that's,
Anybody else? I've got 2 no's, 1, I'll talk about it if anyone wants to. Mr. Martin.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for my absence. While this has been coming up, I've had a pretty busy work schedule. I had initially given quite a bit of weight to the idea of it's been a long relationship that we've had. And then at some point, I kind of actually had a little bit of a light bulb moment. I have talked with staff and I've talked with Scott also. A little bit of a light bulb moment in that we hire Folds and Walker. It became a little bit more evident to me that it's really sort of employee-employer relationship, and we don't bid out our other employee necessarily. We continue the relationship until her evaluation goes south, and then we're going to get rid of her. Thinking of it in terms of that, I've not been disgruntled with the performance of Folds Walker. The feedback I get from staff that was even gray negative was from a period of time, a longer ago. So at this point, the relationship is good. Sometimes I figure if things are bad enough, then they get to my desk, and I haven't had anything get to my desk, so to speak. So I'm fine not bidding it out and continuing the relationship that we have. It's fine. It's fine with me.
Okay, well, not to cut you out, Commissioner Maison, but there's 4.
I don't know.
I still want to talk,
Okay,
man.
go ahead.
Shoot, I put some thoughts together on this, yo. So I did do my due diligence with speaking with staff and with speaking with Scott. And I got some clarification on things that they were a bit cloudy in my head. And to go along with Tim Martin's ordeal, if it's I haven't had any major complaints. And after talking with our staff and the person that speaks with Folds and Walker and Scott, the most didn't have any complaints with them. So I don't see the reason for them to be bidded out, in my opinion. And that's all I have.
Okay, so here's my take on this. You guys asked me to bring it up 2 years ago. 2 years ago, you asked me to bring it back. I haven't heard anybody asking that again, so I'm never going to bring this back up again. If anybody else brings this up, you're bringing it up. I'm not bringing it up. I did exactly what you guys asked me to do, and now my job is done, right? Nobody's asked me to put a timeline on it, so I'm not going to bring it up. Any of you are free to bring it up when you want to, if you ever want to Commissioner Martin's point. But I'm happy as well, and I'm not going to put this back on an agenda. If any of you call me and ask me to put it on the agenda, I'm going to remind you that I'm telling you, what day is it? What day? I'm telling you on this day that any of you can put things on the agenda, but I'm not going to do it anymore, right? We've had a conversation twice, 2 times we've come to the same conclusion. I'm happy with that. Fair enough?
Can I speak to it just real quick?
Yeah, please.
And as my partner would say, well, Scott, you just heard the judge say what the judge is going to say. It's time to get your butt out and don't say anything else. But I do want to say something here is that, first of all, I appreciate the vote of confidence. Secondly, I appreciate the way that you all handled the evaluation process this year, which was more of a private affair than a public affair. And I have mentioned this to a couple of commissioners that I've spoken with, which is that I think that allows you more of an avenue or an opportunity to critique us and tell us what we do well, what we don't do well. And whatever we don't do well, the buck stops here in our law firm, and I want to know about it, and I want to fix it. That's our obligation and our responsibility to you and being responsive. Mayor said it before, my cell phone, he's got, I think, on a speed dial, and it may be 9 o'clock at night before we talk, but we do talk, and there's some very pressing issues when we do talk that require our attention. And so I think that's our relationship, and hopefully the relationship I will always have with you all as well. The thing that Dallas and Mike have put together is called the JOT form system, and it's a program that the city of Newberry has developed and uses to provide an assignment to us so that we have a project list, and then we can report back to you on completing those projects or leaving them open, or for whatever reason, what's going on with those projects. If you look at that metric from October 1st of 2022 to present, we've cleared 128 projects during that time, which I'm proud of that we're getting. Some of those are big projects, some of them not so big, but there's several projects on the list right now. I talked to Danielle on the way over here and said, what do we have on our jot form system that came in the last week? And so we'll diligently get those cleared and get that responded back. But I think that that is a very, very good way to evaluate our legal services. What's on the list, how long has it been on the list, and has it been cleared? And that is something that Mike and your management, Dallas, have been able to create. We're trying to implement that in all of our cities. And I think it's just a great metric to assess where are we at, what is our responsiveness, and how are we doing in that process. So I appreciate us talking about it. I appreciate us talking about it in private. And now it's up to us to go another 20 years, and then maybe we could have this discussion again. By that time, Mr. Foles is probably going to be retired. I'll no longer be having children probably by that time, and we'll have this discussion.
That's already been taken care of. Only thing I disagree there with, Scott, is I think your real evaluation comes with this question. What is for dinner at the ethics training?
They told me tonight. Oh, it's barbecue.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Let me turn the page here.
And I told them they better have some ribs. They had pulled pork
There we
and
go.
chicken.
Yeah.
I said, better have some ribs too.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Earlier today, Mr. Jones and I met with the City of Archer on our interlocal agreement for the regional wastewater treatment plant. It was a very productive meeting. We made a lot of good progress. City of Archer indicates that they are going to try to have it on their commission agenda on their first meeting in December, well, their only meeting in December, for their commission's approval. If they do that, we'll bring the interlocal back to this commission at the first meeting in January. But it was, like I said, very productive meeting, good partnership coming out of that
Before you
agreement.
leave that, Dallas, I've talked with this about Mike, but I talked to 2 or maybe 3 of the commissioners in High Springs, and they were not aware that their outgoing city manager had declined to be a part of this. So I think it's important that we reach out, and at this point, I'm not exactly sure who to reach out to except for the mayor over there. But I think that before we get too late, we need to have a conversation with at least their mayor, so that they can have their commission can decide whether or not they want to keep going with this or not. Because there's something in this conversation with High Springs that I'm not getting. Because on the one hand, they say they're out of capacity and they can't issue any more permits. On the other hand, they're exiting city managers saying we can't participate. So there may be a perfectly valid reason, but I think we need to have that conversation and not just take the outgoing city manager's word that they're out before it gets too late.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, we'll reach out to them. Again, remind the commission and the public about the tree lighting ceremony that is this Saturday, and to visit our website, ChristmasCapitalofAlachuaCounty.com.
ChristmasCapitalofAlachuaCounty.com.
6 p.m. I believe is the tree lighting. I believe the Christmas festival starts at a time.
All day.
Yeah, it'll be on the website, which is ChristmasCapitalofNewberry.com.
It's all day long. 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Just market it.
These kids would get off their cell phones, they pay attention. And then my last comment, as you may have seen in the newspaper, there's been some discussion about PFAS, chemicals in Newberry's drinking water. First of all, we want to say that there's no imminent threat to public health and safety. The city just received the data last week from the EPA, so we are still going through it, trying to understand it. PFAS these days is found in food, bottled water, bananas, meat, all sorts of things. The test that did come back positive, we had 3 positive tests over the year. Was 4.4 parts per trillion, which is about a shot glass full of chemical in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But as I mentioned, there's no imminent threat to the public health. We ask for some patience as we understand and evaluate the data that we've received, and we will provide more information once we have it in the next coming weeks.
And just when we say, as we work to understand, it's not us working to understand this, it's EPA working to understand this. There's a difference between regulations and guidelines, and EPA is still trying to figure out what the regulations should be. So they've issued some preliminary guidelines. We were a fraction over what they think are some guidelines, but they haven't figured out what the regulations should be. We do all kinds of tests all year long, and these have triggered. My concern with the EPA is that they publish this on the website before they even communicated it to the city of Newberry. So we found out about it when everybody else, and then there was no education that went along with it. It was just Newberry tested positive for this chemical that even EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, hasn't figured out if it's safe or not safe or what is safe in it. So there's clearly some structural issues there. But I think it is important for our residents here. There's no boil water notice. There's no imminent threat. Even the EPA is not sure what this should be, right? But I understand when the Gainesville Sun runs a piece saying, well, Newberry popped on this, right? I understand the questions. Anything else, Dallas?
Well, what's the source of the chemical?
It's all the stuff that's made in Teflon, so it's all over the place, right? We use it in tons of products, so this could be that someone ingested something and it, I don't know, right? I don't even want to guess, right? But we're talking about parts per trillion here, right? 1 shot glass in 2 Olympic-sized pools, and that's 3 tests. We've had other tests that didn't trigger, right? So in all good science, you have to replicate the test over and over again to see if it's actually even there. And we are we're right above where the guideline is on those 3 tests.
Well, and to that point, Mr. Mayor, so they sampled us in January and then again in July. We were positive for some in January and then not in July and then vice versa. So there is some confusion amongst the tests as well.
And they didn't publish it until 2 weeks ago. So the EPA said that we triggered for this. They didn't tell us we triggered for it. They just published it, right? So clearly the EPA doesn't believe there's an imminent threat to residents either, or they would have notified us immediately after they had the results, not waited for however many months.
So we only test our water every 6 months?
No, we test our water every week.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we do. Our water is sampled and tested at least once a week for the really bad things, and then there's quarterly, monthly, and annual tests that we submit as well. And our water meets all of the requirements as established by federal and state law.
And are these the samples that were passed out at each house?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor. The EPA required us to collect the samples. We collected it from our 2 water treatment plants.
Any other? I've held two interviews. Mainly, this is still linked to the meat processing. The people that were against that are really angry at Newberry, and so they are scouring the internet for any criticism that they can level at us. And they are the ones that have notified the media and said, "Oh, Newberry's not telling people." We didn't know either. The EPA didn't tell us, right? So this is more of a vendetta, scare tactic than it is anything else. Our residents have nothing to be concerned about, right? We will continue to test. Like I said, we've had tests that say clear, tests that pop, then they go back and forth, right? You got to do a better job, EPA, because you are making people nervous, right? And this is something that's still being tested. And so you should definitely communicate with all parties about the process before you just publish things on websites and make people nervous like this. And if I ever find anybody at the NPA, I'll tell them that. Matt, Mr. Attorney, you got any comments?
December 6th, that's a week from Wednesday, we're having our ethics training 4-hour course, and come on, we'll have something to eat, and hopefully have you a little bit entertained while you're getting your 4-hour certification, so come on to the law office. That's all I
Anybody know they're going? Anybody RSVP? We want to ride together again? Sure. All right. You're going? All right, good. We can figure out a carpool. All right. That it?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman. Commissioner Clark.
As always, we got troops deployed. Thank God we got them, but let's keep everybody in our prayers and all those deployed and hope they come home safe. God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Farnsworth.
This is no FSU. I'm not, you know, I'm
It's going to be
okay
gracious.
with that. I was the tailgating for Florida game.
Tailgating was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The game, not so much. About a half of the game was all right.
Yeah, half was good for me too. History question, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
2 presidents died on the same date.
John Adams and Thomas Jefferson.
What was the date?
July 4th.
Year?
1802 or 3?
26.
1826. Yeah, it had to be after that. Hold on, I think.
If you got a year, he'd ask you what time.
Yeah.
You're smarter than a 5th grader.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Commissioner Martin, you got anything? Commissioner Maison?
Of course. So I have our staff, amazing staff. I have another compliment for Rance Green over in the utility yard, without mentioning any Newberryans' name. So this Newberryan had been asking for a light in a dark area off of a main highway. You probably know who it is, but I'm not going to mention the name. But went to Rance, went to the utility yard, and got it taken care of within a week, I want to say. So I want to say that was a great response from our utility yard, from Rance Green. Rance Green was the person that was in contact and made sure that the customer, the Newberryan, was aware when it was going to get done, that it got done, and it got done. So I wanted to, once again, pat our amazing staff on the back again for a job well done. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing like a joke with a man flying through the air.
He's letting the riddles go. Yeah. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I apologize for being out. Y'all didn't want what I had, so I wasn't going to come and share it. I want to say thank you to our staff, especially Travis and everybody's working on Christmas. Miss Randa back there. We are about to embark on 4 weeks of activities, and the residents are going to come and they're going to have a great time, and they're never going to think about all of the hundreds of hours of work and thought that went into that, analyzing what we did last year and all those kinds of things. So I hope everybody comes on this Saturday. Let's enjoy the vintage market. Should be great, just like it always is. The tree lighting ceremony is going to be wonderful, but every weekend after that, Main Street Chamber, the town, it really has come together. So I hope everybody enjoys it. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. At the last meeting, did we discuss our commission meeting schedule for December, and we canceled the second one as normal? Yes?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The second meeting is on Christmas Day, so it's been canceled. We'll have our December 11th normal meeting, and then there is a special commission meeting on December 12th to discuss the ranch.
Okay. So we've got tomorrow. We have it. Yeah, we have a workshop. Kamara's comprehensive plan workshop. Yeah. So, but the special meeting is a one item agenda because it will be it'll be enough just by itself, right? So, what? Did you say something? No. And that does it for me. And public comment. Come on down. Yeah, you waited till the end of the night.
It's 2 more than usual.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll be very quick. It has nothing to do with anything that anybody talked about.
Will you turn the microphone on and introduce yourself to us for the record?
Okay.
But as I said, has nothing to do with anything anybody talked about tonight. But we've talked about like having so many events here and everything, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. You did a fantastic job talking about the events in Newberry, like the sporting events, like the little festivals and everything. I don't know if you guys know, but the Medieval Festival has been relocated to an absolutely horrible place, Depot Park. I think Newberry would be a great home for that. I don't know if you guys can do anything about it.
Already on it.
And we'll help.
Started 3 weeks ago.
Okay, very good.
No, it's a no-go for this year.
Oh,
But
okay.
maybe next.
But we love that event, and we were excited when we heard that it might have been coming over toward where the equestrian area was, because it'd be closer to home for us, but
Won't fit
that
there.
didn't work. And we have the rodeo out here.
Yeah.
We have the space. I think we have the people who would support it. So if we
I
can get
agree.
that going, that would be
We
great.
just can't let what happened in Archer last year happen out here. But we can fix it.
My personal opinion was it was the actual directing of the traffic and not the actual traffic flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the traffic flow wasn't that terrible. It's just when you're told to stand still for 15 minutes and you can't go, it stacks up.
Yeah. But Gainesville has changed their mind about letting it be not in Gainesville. So that opened up the door. So we are in
Awesome.
conversations. We're not in conversations. We have private business owners
Good.
who are in conversations. So
Good.
we
I
put
think it
them
needs to
together.
be out here. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I should have said, I hope you all, I'm spoiling your present, but just because we are the Christmas capital, right? So this Saturday, there you go, right? Nice little logo on the front. Well done. Whoever designed that, I appreciate the shirt. And there's a
That was,
sticker.
Sierra.
Yeah. All right. If there are no more public comments, then we are adjourned.